Okay. Welcome, one and all, to yet another episode of WIC TV. It's a cross-ideological space where we come together to talk about issues both political and cultural, from the silly to the serious. Oh my goodness, we have a show for you today. Tonight, we are going to be talking about the recent arrest of Wisconsin Judge Dugan, who was allegedly helping an illegal immigrant to evade ICE, right? This brings up larger questions. Was Dugan's arrest valid? Is the judiciary currently improperly doing their jobs to stymie Trump and his administration? Are we in a judicial coup? Is Trump being authoritarian when he goes in and arrests not just Dugan, but other judges? At least one other one has been apprehended for alleged crimes. We're going to talk about it all. We're going to discuss it. It'll be a fun topic. We're going to give the first mic to Jonah. Jonah, start us off. Take us away. Tell us what you got. Go ahead.
Yeah. On the actual legal ground itself, there's a lot of conflicting legal opinions whether or not she actually did the crime that they say she did. The only real testimony we have is from the government, who has every incentive to overemphasize her sort of illegal motivations. Even outside of that, though, I think Soy and I will talk about the really catastrophic consequences of both politicizing and arresting people in the judiciary, because it just has far-reaching consequences that go far beyond this case.
Okay, we'll get into it, I'm sure. Thank you for being here. Next up, first-time guest on my show, Dronetek. Welcome. Tell people who you are, what you do, and what your thoughts are. Go ahead.
Yeah, man. Thanks for having me. I'm Dronetek. My real name's Ryan Stutz, and I've been on YouTube for about full-time, like as a job, for about 7 years now, just doing videos about the media and how they tend to deceive people. And as far as the, and you can find me at YouTube and X. As far as the judge, it seems like she broke the law based on the information that we have. If you just look at the statutes, obstruction of justice and concealing a person from arrest, it fits the bill pretty well, and we can go over that. But I think first and foremost, or above all, no one is above the law. And we heard that for years from Democrats in the media, robotically repeated every day for years. And I don't see why that standard would change now just because it's a judge. So, I look forward to talking about that.
We'll get into it as we go. Really appreciate you being here, sir. Next up, no stranger to my channel, Soy Pill. Go ahead.
Hey, I'll try to read this fast. In regards to the Dugan case, I think there's a lot of gray area as to whether or not they can prove mens rea. She did expedite the case. She led the defendant out of a jury door, but we're not 100% sure what her intent was. And her frustration could be due to the fact that they were interrupting one of 8 of her cases that day. I think this is a bigger problem for both people who oppose ICE and their actions, but also people who support ICE. I think that by showing up to court hearings, they're disincentivizing illegal and even legal immigrants from participating in the legal process. My second issue is that this arrest is clearly a scare tactic. It's meant to intimidate not just the judges who may be indeed violating a law, but any other who might go against Trump's immigration policy, including Paula Zenas in the Kilmar Abrego case. I wouldn't be surprised if it turned out that Dugan had tried to obstruct justice. There have been a few other judges recently who have done, I think, a lot more clear obstruction. But my opponents need to prove, one, intent, and also, more importantly, they have to contend with the fact that the arresting people in courtrooms is going to make problems harder with illegal crime, which I think is the main contention with the right on illegal immigration. But overall, in the context of Trump's erosion of checks and balances, it's just another move to consolidate loyalty and power and weaken judicial pushback. So that's my case.
Okay, we'll get into it as we go. Thank you for being here, sir. Last but certainly not least, Deej. Go ahead.
Okay. Yep. Deej, you can see me on YouTube, Twitter. I think that just generally there's enough at least meat to the Dugan case to bring charges. Whether those charges will stick, ultimately the jury is a jury. I think that there may be some common ground that we can find on like maybe the tactics that are being employed. But I'm probably going to disagree hard on the idea that this is some broader constitutional crisis or that Trump is really like challenging checks and balances. I mean, the only cases that have been brought forward of judges being arrested seems like there's at least enough probable cause to justify the arrest being made. Whether you think that that is a scare tactic or not, uh, ultimately, I think we'll end up coming down to opinions and personal political biases.
Okay, well, thank you for being here, and I guess we'll get into it. We'll start with this. You mentioned, Deej, in your opening statement there, that you don't think that that Trump is challenging the checks and balances, that he's not putting forth that challenge. Is that a view that the rest of you hold, that you don't think Trump is pushing the limits or pushing the boundaries or anything like that?
If I can
On this-
clarify,
Clarify.
I don't
go
think
ahead.
I think that he is pushing like limits of what is possible, but I wouldn't put that to a degree of like he's outright creating a like completely violating the courts.
What do we
I
think?
guess my question would be, what would he have to do to completely violate the courts that would show you that he is completely violating the courts? Because I would say this specific case wouldn't be a complete violation, but I think it's a in context of what he's doing with defying the Supreme Court order, pushing back on Judge Zena's, arresting these other judges, and kind of broadcasting this as a, hey, if you defy us, we'll go after you. As you can see from the tweets from Kash Patel, Pam Bondi, and him himself. That seems to be part of a greater narrative of, hey, judicial branch, if you try to check our power, we will come after you, regardless of whether or not that is a justified coming after or not. So my question is, what would he have to do to show you that he is indeed pushing that check and balance to a place that you wouldn't be okay with?
Yeah, so I would say what I would have to see to be convinced would be a direct violation of the letter of the law on court orders, or a arrest of judges without a probable cause. Like, for instance, the instances we have of judges being arrested, there seems to be a clear like legal justification for charges to be brought. If he, for instance, the Texas judge that barred him using the INA, if he were to arrest that judge and provide no evidence other than just like some flimsy obstruction charges, 100%, I will personally fly down and protest outside of the courthouse with you, Soy Pill, if you want.
Okay.
Yeah,
Well,
can
what
I
about
just
going
chime in real
against-
quick? Say,
go ahead.
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah,
please.
just real quick. I agree with that 100%. And I was I was supposed to be on another one of these streams, but Wick found out that I was actually for, people getting their due process as far as that MS-13 guy, the, I forget where he's from.
Garcia, I forget his name.
El Salvador.
Yeah, I forget his name, but then it turns out that he actually does. Like, he probably most likely is an MS-13 gang member. And I still don't agree with him going to prison necessarily, but I feel like he got all the due process that he should have. And so I feel like a lot of it is exaggeration that we're hearing right now. And if he were to start just like arresting judges for no reason, the judges he arrested, it was one, they had probable cause. And the other guy, he was a former judge. He's not a current judge. And there's plenty of probable cause there. So
if you
I
want
don't
to
see
talk
any
about
reason to see
Kano,
that this is like a pattern.
Well, I do want to, like, before we get into it, because I don't want to get too deep into the Kano or there was another judge that was arrested. I forgot the name. But I think those cases were a little, like I said in my opening, a little more clear, where he was harboring asylum seekers and letting them use his firearms at a shooting range, which is like very irresponsible. I think what you're seeing here, at least in this specific case, is that the precedent for how you go after a judge for any sort of misconduct and obstruction is not to just immediately arrest them on very vague legal evidence of, well, it seems like this person obstructed based on this one person describing the incident to us, but more of a, hey, let's do a criminal process and investigation. And what they did was they have a warrant for her arrest that are usually reserved for things like someone who is an ongoing danger to the public, or someone who is in the middle of committing a crime, not someone who did something at a point that you can go through and have a complaint, go through like the bar association, go through the chief judge, This seems like a deviation for precedent of, hey, there's a way to deal with complaints versus I'm going to arrest this person immediately. And that is why I think it's not just, hey, they had probable cause. Because if you look at this, like I said, I wouldn't be surprised if it turned out this person did obstruct justice. I will find out in the court. The difference is they really do have to prove it. It's a little gray as to whether or not she did. And they arrested her anyway with a immediate kind of criminal injunction. I think that's the issue here.
Yeah, I would say that maybe unprecedented, but at the same time, right? Like to a certain extent, like when you openly defy a federal agency and then the federal agency makes a public showing of coming after you for legal reasons.
Well, hold on. When you say openly defy, again, that has not been proven yet, right? Like that is what remains to be proven. Like I said, when I first read this case, I understand people seeing this and it's like, okay, she was really mad. She let him out a door that may or may not have been a usual thing. And she tried to lead agents away. That could point to her trying to obstruct justice. I'm not denying that that is possible. What I'm saying is, you're saying she obviously did. We don't actually know that for sure. We have to know for sure. They have to prove that in the court. And it's the current evidence as to whether or not she did is someone testified or someone has the accusation that she did. It's a gray area. So to arrest someone on that gray area is kind of that what we're talking about is like
it resulted in a foot chase, right, between the police and the.
So just in case I get my facts wrong, this is my understanding of it, and Jonah and I review this. So Jonah, please correct me if I'm wrong. She did lead him out. Okay, the 6 agents showed up. One of them was in plain clothes and in a mask and was not identified by her or the court security officer. I forgot what the name is.
Bailiff.
Not the bailiff, but regardless, it doesn't matter. She said, go talk to the chief judge after she came out. And she was frustrated because whether or not it was because she's an activist judge who wants to defend every illegal immigrant, or for the fact that by coming into this courthouse and interrupting her court proceedings, one, she has 8 other cases, I think all immigration cases, which are now going to be, completely fucked because if any of those witnesses are now intimidated by ICE, if any of them are legal citizens who have family that are illegal, they're not going to show up and testify. This completely disrupted her whole day. So whether or not her frustration was activism or because, justifiably, you just fucked with my entire, docket for the whole day, we don't know. Then she said, go talk to the chief judge, which 5 of them went to go do that. The one who did not do that, it was sitting like a little bit away from this group. So he may or may not have been identified by her. So maybe she thought all the agents were gone. If the theory that she's trying to obstruct is true, that might make sense. Because then she said, hey, let's expedite this person's case, lead him out this door. And that door led to an elevator that led to the public hallway in which they were allowed to arrest him because they're not allowed to arrest him on private grounds using this administrative warrant. So if this leads back to the place where all of these agents are, maybe if we can prove that she thought that those agents were gone, she was trying to get him away. Now, whether or not him fleeing, because he did flee on a foot chase and they had to catch him, was her intent for him to flee away, we do not know. Now, he definitely wanted to flee. That could have been panic. That could have been premeditated by her telling him to flee, but we don't know that. So it looks bad for sure. But it's gray, and you can't just arrest a judge. I mean, you can. Don't get me wrong; they did it. But this is it's not precedented to arrest a judge based on a complaint, a gray area complaint that happened in the past that's not ongoing. And then, that's the thing we're having a problem with, right?
I would say real quick because I kind of agree with you on that, and I think that they did try to make a spectacle of it. Clearly, that's something that the Trump administration wants to do a lot of.
Okay,
but I would also say that Democrats, once again, they set that standard, or the Biden administration did, with these these huge spectacle arrests of people around Trump and down to just like his supporters, right? Where, excuse me, they were hunting down like terrorists, people who were just on Capitol grounds and didn't do anything violent. And then you had Biden going out there and bragging about how many people he put in prison. And so
were any of those people
talking about the January 6 people?
I'm sorry?
Yeah.
January 6th. I'm sorry. Yeah. Biden gave a speech and he bragged about how much prison time all these people had gotten. So like Democrats set that standard. I get that you don't like it now, but Trump is clearly taking advantage.
The standard is not making arrests. The standard is arresting a judge performing her official duties. It's not arresting anyone.
Well, right, but she wasn't performing.
I think every
January. Hold on. You're all talking over each other, and it's hard to hear. It's hard to understand. Let Drone finish. Let Drone finish, and then you guys can respond. Go ahead, Drone.
No, I'm just saying the accusation is that she wasn't. She wasn't carrying out her official duties.
So
she let a violent. Allegedly, she let a violent man.
They were, hey,
Allegedly,
we
she
have you
let
on
a violent
camera
man who
interrupting
assaulted
a
two other people
official.
pretty badly out into the street.
Sure.
Well-
What I'm saying is you're comparing this to January 6th arrest, where it's not at all a
I'm not
allegation. This is a, dead to rights. We have you interrupting an official procedure by the government, and that's not a precedent set by the Democrats. Now, if you could point me, and this might be true, I don't know. If you could point me to the Democrats arresting someone on very, very spurious evidence, and not going through an official proceeding to make a show of force, that might be the case. I have not seen that. I don't think that precedent exists, so far as I know.
Well, they definitely, Trump may have escalated things. That Trump does seem to have that pattern of where he'll take what they did and just escalate it up a little bit. But as far, I wasn't necessarily comparing the events to January 6th, although they were both sort of obstruction. A lot of people got charged with that. But you say the Democrats didn't set that precedent, but Democrats regularly took over federal buildings and stuff that's going on in Congress,
completely
votes,
different things.
and they weren't arrested. They weren't hunted down like terrorists.
They
weren't even charged.
These are completely different things.
They're not.
Public
I'm
display
talking
in a
about.
federal
I'm not talking
building
about the violent
versus
people. I'm talking about
arresting a
the
judge.
1,000 or so peaceful people
Yeah. So
that got
okay,
arrested and charged.
Well, I want to
agree.
hear what Jonah has to say real quick,
Yeah,
right?
go ahead,
so
Jonah.
just I want to give Jonah the mic here. Go ahead, Jonah.
I think there's a couple things that I think you're trying to do. One, I think you're like, it's the case that the case is at best a gray area, and so you're trying to just do the whataboutism of but Democrats did the same thing. There's a lot of reasons why it's not the same. Number one, it's not a judge, so there's not a sort of chilling effect to every other judge
No one is
across the
above the
country.
law.
Instead, I'm not done, and there's not other judges that are now going to be thinking, well, if I don't agree with what the Trump administration wants me to do, am I going to get arrested this next time? So that doesn't happen with the January 6ers. At the worst case, it's, if I break into the Capitol, I'll probably get arrested. I think that's probably fine. And then also there's just a lot of things that you're not contending with about why this case is not as solid as you might think it is, because I mean, maybe you guys just didn't look into these things. Like they added they had an administrative warrant, not a judicial warrant. They didn't. They can't prove like mens rea, the actual corrupt intent to harbor someone, because to do that you need to actually be sheltering them. She let them into a public hallway. Like there's just a lot of reasons why this is not a clear-cut case. And then I think even if it is, you're not justifying why arresting this one person, even if it is a clear-cut case, is not still damaging to the entire justice system.
So if I can loop back slightly, because what started kind of that conversation was, me saying that judges openly defying Trump. And I feel like Soy Pill, you very much downplayed the actions of Judge Dugan during that day. It wasn't that she just came out and had a conversation with ICE. And also, ICE at no point attempted to enter the courtroom. Because you're correct, with their administrative warrant, they couldn't have arrested him inside the courtroom. They were following proper procedure, which is to wait in the hallway in the public area. And they never announced themselves to the judge, right? It was someone informing the judge that, hey, ICE is outside. Mm-hmm. She at no point needed to go out and confront them, because they were not attempting to try and get into her courtroom or mess with the proceeding. Nobody claims that they were. And when she came out, she was screaming and livid at the ICE agents. This wasn't just, she came out and had a conversation and politely told them to come talk to the chief.
Let him finish, please. Let him finish.
Do you think they can mess? Do you think they can mess with the proceeding without physically entering the courtroom?
Yeah, a protest outside the courthouse can mess with the proceeding.
But do you understand why a protest from just like random citizens and ICE agents coming into the courtroom or not the courtroom, but right outside would be different? Do you get why that's?
Well, if they weren't announced, nobody would have known that they were out there.
They were identifiable ICE agents. They had their like badges, and
some of them were part
yes, but nobody knew that the ICE agents were out there until someone told the judge, and the judge announced it to the entire
except everyone
world.
walking around waiting for their hearing, right? And then the people that go in the bathroom break and come back in, and literally everyone else, right? So it's only just the people that stay in there the entire time who don't know that, and then that spreads quickly, right? So everyone else for the rest of the day would know that ICE agents are in the building and waiting to arrest someone, and that someone could be them. They don't know who they're there to arrest. Right?
Is it against the law or against ICE procedure to do what ICE was doing? Was ICE violating any law or due process?
That's irrelevant to our argument. The point is that it completely disrupts the entire court proceeding, and her anger is completely justified, because whether or not, again, if she was angry because they're going to arrest her client, or not her client, the defendant, or they're going to completely fuck over her entire docket of immigration cases by intimidating both defendants, witnesses, prosecutors, like whoever who may or may not be associated with some way with an illegal immigrant, that's a justifiable reason to get angry, and to say that this is like, oh, she didn't need to do this. Yeah, she didn't need to, but this is like a very much a disruptive procedure that many people have argued against. And to be fair, I understand why they do this in courtrooms. It's because, they have to go through metal detectors. There's less likely, they know exactly where they're going to be, when they're going to be there, and like they're not going to have weapons, right? But the problem is now what you're doing by doing this, and this is probably at least to some degree why she was angry, is that you're disincentivizing any illegal immigrant, including the one in this case, from showing up to their court hearing, and then any other witnesses from testifying against, whether that's illegal immigrants fighting against them, or prosecuting. What am I saying? Like doing violence against them, or
They're
from
victims,
people, being victims of a crime from a legal immigrant who might be being exploited at a workplace. So this precedent of going in there is the bigger problem. But again, we're jumping around too from whether or not the judge can definitely be proven to have done this, which I think, again, like Jonah laid out, is very gray. But even if she did, the problem is also how ICE conducted themselves.
Okay,
I don't think it's that great, first of all, like he said, and like she showed intent with the anger towards the ICE agents, and she's a judge. Like, why is she getting angry about this? Like, and you even said her client, because she's acting like the client, like his representation or something.
That was just a misspeak. That's because I forgot to say that.
Yeah, but that's how she's acting, though, correct?
Well, even
again, you're saying is that there's. Well,
you're stepping on each other, gang. Pick one. Right.
We're saying there are other reasonable justifications for her being upset, which is why it's a gray area. Just because you can pick one of the reasons that she's upset and apply it to what narrative you want to fit doesn't mean that that's the one that was true.
Okay, well, she's upset about the due process, I guess. I don't know, but that you guys were attacking the administrative warrant, and she kind of did too, if I remember. I could be wrong, but and I could be wrong about this too. But isn't a judge's warrant pretty much the same thing, except for it comes with probable cause, and so you can go to private residence and all that? I mean, essentially, they had probable cause. That guy had been deported already, and then came back, and then committed more crimes.
Though, so they should have got a judicial warrant, which is what she said.
Well, but they didn't need a judicial warrant to arrest him in the public hallways.
I'm
just saying
what
that
they did was illegal. We're saying what they did.
She sent him to the public hallway.
And I think I haven't heard you contend with this, either of you, that, hey, this is disrupting her entire docket of cases all day, and that's a completely justifiable reason to get angry. And you say, obviously, her intent was, like I said, if you paint the picture of she was trying to harbor and let this guy escape, and it turns out that they investigate this and that was her intent, I won't be surprised. The problem is you can't prove that now. We don't know 100%. And the fact that we are arresting her based on that allegation, rather than, hey, we think you might have done this. And my understanding is the precedent is not to just arrest this person out of nowhere. It's to go through formal complaint systems, to do a criminal investigation.
I really agree with that, but I do agree with that it's wrong just to kind of charge and then go to court. Where you're off base here a little bit is that there's no precedent for that. That happens to everyday people all the time, every day. Cops will I see it all the time in a certain sector, First Amendment on, stuff like that. I don't know if you guys know anything about it, but people will get arrested all the time for obstruction and all this stuff when there was no investigation. Nobody even alleged it, but the cop got his feelings hurt or something, and they'll just put you through the court system, and that's the punishment. So I feel like that's sort of what's happening here, and I don't agree with it, but it's not. I mean, it's nothing new. It's just happening to a judge now.
There are different standards for judges and people for a reason, right?
Yeah, there's different standards, and also if your defense of this is like, hey, cops are already doing bad things, okay?
I'm just as far as a precedent goes, I'm saying.
Sure.
So,
but there isn't the precedent of judges even if that precedent exists for police arresting random people, which again, yes, is bad. It's extra bad when it happens to judges, because they're the ones that decide if people go to prison or not, and we don't want them deciding against.
Let me ask
what they believe in a Trump case.
I think as long as you don't break the law, you're probably okay. But she might have.
Well, I don't know about that. Remind me sometime to tell you the story about how the cops stole my mom's laptop right after Christmas, or right before Christmas. But that's a different story. But cops do crazy shit all the time. I guess maybe I can try to cross this bridge, or build a bridge, or maybe get us somewhere by asking this question. And this is to Deej and to Dronetek, I think. Do you think that it is wrong, bad, irresponsible, whatever word you want to use, for Trump to have made this into a spectacle? Regardless of whether it's happened before, whether there's president, do you think that it's a problem that
Yeah,
the Trump
I
administration
don't agree
has
with
done
it.
that.
Yeah, I don't agree with that because it's just escalating things. We're just continuing to escalate on both sides. Now, once the Democrats get back in, you can expect them to go even further, is my guess. And so, yeah, I don't agree with it. But I understand that it's coming from Trump just didn't come out of nowhere and do that. You got to look at the previous 4 years and all the insanity that the Democrat. It's not whataboutism to hold Democrats and the people that supported what they did to the standard that they set.
But like,
As
can
long
you
as they're
draw this
equivalent.
equivalency? Like, can you show
Yeah.
me? Like
It's
I
never
said,
going to
if
be
you can show me-
equivalent. And
Well,
I'm sorry,
that's
I'm
the
not. I don't mean to
problem, then.
generalize, but you guys always like carve out exceptions, so it's different when you do it. Always.
Well,
Why is that? Why is that a meme? Why
Again,
does that exist
it
as a
won't
meme?
be if you can show me a case where the Democrats arrested a judge in an expedited process that's unprecedented for
Right.
defying
I
the
agree that
administration.
it's I agree that as far as a judge go, it's not. I don't think it's happened. Trump did
So I
have
don't think they're the
another
same.
judge arrested in 2019, I believe, for a similar thing. But the judge let an illegal immigrant go to his locker to get something, and then he fled, and they charged her, and it was dropped. But
Jerome,
it
can I
seems
ask
a
you a
lot different
follow-up?
to me.
Can I ask you a follow-up? What do you think their intent was? Even if you think it's a show of force, do you think that from the beginning they had the intent to make this a show of force?
Well, yeah, because the country, a big part of why Trump was elected was because of illegal immigration. The country's tired of it. And the message is we're not going to sit by while judges use our system to make sure that these illegal stay. Something I'm not sure about, I didn't get a chance to look into. Barack Obama deported, more than Trump. Well, did Obama run into all this when he was deporting people? I honestly don't know.
I could speak to that. There was several ACLU challenges to his deportations. There's a big thing. I think Amnesty International. There's a few organizations.
Okay, but we're judges like stepping in and stopping these deportations.
There are cases on it. I'm not sure what I'm not sure what the rulings were.
I don't remember that ever being an issue.
Did go to court,
I mean,
and there's articles on it you can find in the Washington Examiner, the New York Times, etc., where they have real challenges to they called Obama the deporter in chief, right? There was a big stink
Right.
from some circles. Yeah.
But I would posit the reason you can't find anything, Drone, is because despite the fact that people might disagree with Obama's deportations, he wasn't doing so in a way as a show of force to say, hey, look how I'm, fighting against these illegal immigrants. He was going through the legal precedents and processes and saying, hey, these people aren't supposed to be here, get them out. And like I mean, I don't know.
Can I disagree just a little bit?
Yeah.
Real quick.
Sure.
Before you move on. Kids in cages. That started with the Flores Act, correct? And the Flores Act came under Obama, and the purpose was to separate kids from the parents when they went to prison, but it was acknowledged at the time that it was being used as a deterrent. So do you not consider that a spectacle?
Not sure if that's indeed why. I haven't looked into that specifically. So for a while, it's since we got in the whole cages debate. I think it's been 5 years. But yeah, if that's the case, then sure. Then Obama was trying to do a show of force. That said, if he was doing this cages thing, and whether or not I agree with it is different from how they're doing it, whether or not he was pushing back on the judicial branch who are saying, hey, you're not allowed to do this. And he's saying, hey, if you try to stop me from doing this, I'm going to find a way to arrest you. Like, again, this is why comparing these things is not exactly the same. And
I don't want it to get to that point, but like, are we supposed to just allow the judicial branch and the Democrats in general just allow this country to be flooded and ignore the will of a majority of the country?
She was doing her official duties of doing a pre-trial for the guy
if
who
she helped him flee,
immigrant.
that's an official duty.
But this is the whole question. You're just begging the question of this, right?
If I can interject a little bit. So really to loop back on your question, Wick, I don't think that Trump is like he's not like directing ICE, right? Obviously he is the commander in chief and he's over the administration, but really, I mean, I know a couple of ICE agents, and I know one specifically that is in a sanctuary jurisdiction, and they are pissed at, they're not at, but they regularly have to go into the sanctuary jurisdictions, and they are pissed at these, there's a lot of animosity, right? Because, which
they're
in this
pissed
area,
at what? Can you be more clear?
They're pissed at the fact that, like, for them to go and essentially do their jobs, they have to basically either do what they're doing at this courthouse, or they have to go into places where they don't get intel from the local police departments, and it's a lot more dangerous for them to do what they perceive as their job. And so, like, it's not Trump arresting this judge, right? I think it probably has more to do with built-up animosity with the
But it was Kash
organization
Patel.
dealing in
Yeah,
these.
Sure, just real quick. It was Kash Patel who Trump appointed to the position, which is he tweeted about it. He tweeted and he made this into a spectacle. And when we say Trump, we do mean his administration as well.
Right. But what I'm kind of saying is that really it's more so that
rounding up any
Trump,
immigrants because he couldn't chase them. Right?
Obviously. But Trump is essentially, he's taken the leash off of ICE. And a lot of what we're seeing is the effects of that leash being taken off because they've been really leashed, especially the past 4 years, unable to do their job. And so, frankly, I would expect a lot more judicial overreaches or administrative overreaches than we have been seeing under these circumstances.
It's the leash being taken off, but then also threatening anyone who tries to put some sort of
Trump can say mean things,
right?
About
Well,
Trump can say mean things about people that are.
Don't obfuscate. He's saying mean things.
It's
He's
arresting
saying,
a judge.
This is what's going to happen if
Yes,
you defy
yes,
us.
but
That's very different.
Why is he arresting, or why is the judge being arrested? Right like you don't disagree that there is at least enough probable cause for the arrest. You're complaining about how they're performing the arrest.
Actually, I actually, when I first read about this, I would have agreed. Okay, this seems pretty obvious. But as I read more and read about the legal precedent for how you arrest people like this, there's not enough probable cause to my understanding. This is very, very much an overreach of, hey, this is kind of a weird gray area, but we're going to arrest you within like a few days of this happening. That's not what usually happens.
Because I guess here's a question I have, right? Because a lot of times I've heard from people on your side of the issue that, well, he was apprehended anyways because he had to go through the public hallway, right? What if he had gotten away? Or let's say a private citizen like me, right? I'm harboring someone who is a gang member, and police come to my house with a warrant. Yeah, right? Police come to my house with a warrant. And they essentially are asking if this person lives in my home. And I get mad at them, I scream at them, and I direct them to my wife to talk with them. And while she's doing that, I go and sneak him out the back of my house, and he runs a block down the street, gets caught by another police officer. Would there be probable cause to arrest me or charge me for aiding and abetting and harboring that criminal?
So the legal definition for harboring is actually pretty clear in that the hiding aspect of it is the part that is breaking the law and is the part that is harboring. And yes, you will have had evidence that you were harboring them and then let them escape, whereas she was not hiding him from them. She let them out a side door which went into the main public hallway where there was an agent stationed. So she was not,
is it common procedure?
Let Jonah finish.
I think there's some dispute on that.
She was not. Hold on. No, there's no dispute on that. The statement
once
of facts from
Jonah finishes, I'll let you guys respond. But Jonah, go ahead, finish.
The statement of facts from the government's documents, by the way, which has every incentive to frame it in the worst light, and we don't know what the other side statement of facts are. From their documents, they say that she let them out a side door that, yes, is not often used, but that side door leads into the main public hallway to the main elevator to leave the building. And the agent was actually on the elevator with them down to get to the exit. And then once they started identifying themselves, the guy started running away because he was scared, or maybe it was all an inside job or whatever, but we don't know. That is the point. And so she was not sheltering and hiding him. She let him into a main public hallway that everyone uses.
Why did she lead him anywhere?
What is the purpose of the jury private entrance into the courtroom?
Well, she used as an exit, not an entrance into the courtroom.
Right, but what is the purpose of there being this way in or out of the courtroom? Like, why does this
generally
exist?
so people aren't seen entering or exiting, but then they went into the main public hallway. I get what you're getting at, but like then they went to where everyone else goes and is seen anyway. So
right, but she released him to a spot that the public normally isn't. Correct?
Yeah, but he's not part of the public in this instance. He's the one having his case heard.
So
right, I know.
if we could go back to my example, right? You agree that I would have been harboring and also concealing this criminal in my house, right?
Yeah.
I released him to a public place.
The difference
cops
being
still got
if
him.
the public places where the agents already are, if you released him out the front door and he walked past the agents, but they didn't recognize him, that would be the gray area in which this is now an analogous,
So,
example.
And also,
So if
you are
the
harboring him
agents
in
were
a
more-
private place, not
That's good.
in a public courthouse.
if so the difference is if the agents were incompetent enough to not recognize him and he had gotten out, then it's no longer a gray area. So basically, whether or not
No.
this was a crime is
the fact that
dependent on the competency
he was led
of
to
the
the
ICE
area
agents.
where the agents already were. It's not about whether or not the agents were competent enough to recognize him. It's that he went to where the agents were. If she, again, this very
There
much
was
could have
no
been a
way
thing.
he could have gotten out. In a like you can't leave the courthouse without going through public
So what
places.
you're saying is that it's ambiguous and they have to prove her intent. You can say, like I said, if it turns out she tried to do this, I'm not saying it's like, oh, impossible. In fact, when I first read this, it was like, yeah, this seems like she did that, right? I'm just saying right now it is a gray area. You can't prove it. They have to prove it. And they arrested her under the grounds of this gray area, which is unprecedented. That's what we're talking about. It's not that, hey, it's impossible for her to have done this in a way that was intending for him to escape. It's that it is not clear. It is not cut and dry. And the fact that they're arresting her over this is more to the agenda of the Trump admin than whether or not she's this like horrible, awful criminal. And again, you still haven't contended with the fact that one, they did completely disrupt her entire docket, but two, that the precedent for these criminal arrests for her specifically are not, hey, let's get this judge who did something in the past that we think might be illegal. It's, hey, someone is in the middle of committing a crime. I believe the example that was used when talking about this was someone that was distributing like child pornography or something, where like they're in the active procedure of doing this. Let's get this criminal warrant and stop them from committing that crime. And that's not what was happening here. This was, she did a thing. Now, if they had brought up, hey, we think she's still harboring people, if she's still trying to let them escape, that would be a completely different story. But they have not alleged that at all. This is
reasonable,
also,
reasonable,
not like a
articulable.
Dutch angle going on. I don't know if it's your.
Yeah, it's tilting. RAS, reasonable, articulable suspicion of a crime is enough for an arrest, right? And that's having committed a crime or in the commission of a crime or about to commit a crime.
I think it's probably
so. If they had RAS that she had done this, reasonable suspicion, then that's grounds for arrest.
I don't think that's.
I don't necessarily agree with it, but I'm just saying.
Can I read you an excerpt from a legal site that I had, and I could share the link to with you?
Yeah, you can. But I just want to know why she took this guy out another exit. Why didn't she just let him go out the normal exit?
Well, that's what we'll find out in the investigation. And like I said, it very well could be that she's trying to harbor him, but we do not know that.
But you're saying the investigation shouldn't take place.
No, I'm not saying that. If anything, I'm saying that the normal procedure of this would be to have an investigation, to go through complaints and to file complaints, and to maybe go through it, like I said, the bar association, and say, look, we believe this happened. Let's try to prove it, and not let us arrest her. Because again, she's not in the middle of committing a crime. She's not still a danger to the public, and that's usually why they get these warrants. If I may read this real quick. It says, a criminal complaint is most often used to obtain an arrest warrant in cases where agents and prosecutors are worried about either ongoing criminal conduct or risk to the public at large, as is not infrequently true, both. And then let's see, it's hard to see how the rationale would apply to Judge Dugan's case. Nothing in the criminal complaint suggests that Dugan was involved in any kind of ongoing criminal conduct, let alone conduct that jeopardized the public at large. Even taken in a light most charitable to the government, the facts in the criminal complaint instead describe a judge unsympathetic to an effort by federal agents to enforce immigration laws in the Milwaukee County Courthouse. The complaint itself notes that the chief judge was developing a policy for precisely such matters, and the criminal complaint nowhere suggests that Dugan would willfully resist such a policy once it's in place. So this is, again, going back to an example she did in the past that they have no allegations of continuing to happen, and then they're taking this criminal warrant and saying, let's go arrest this person. That is why we think it is an extension of Trump's show of force. It is not a, hey, this person did something bad, which, again, we admit could be the case. She very well could be harboring or obstructing. They did not go through what is normally the channels to do and arrest this person or charge this person or complain about this person.
They expedited and posted a picture of it. Like the intent was very clear and very obvious. And it's just not the normal process that anyone would do this.
Yeah, I mean, they're trying to. It's like when they do DUI checkpoints. They're trying to like let people know if you drink and drive, you're going to go down. And I feel like that's sort of what they're trying to do here. Like, hey, if you're helping illegals evade ICE and you're keeping them here and not allowing us to deport them, you're on notice. I don't necessarily agree with it, but
do you understand how that could extend to not just do you or do you not deport an illegal immigrant, but literally every single time a judge is presented with a Trump administration case, they will think twice about deciding against them because they might try to arrest that person or
I would say they just don't have to break the
like,
law and they should be fine.
Well,
But
that's really simple to say, but even
Yes.
even if there's a single thought in a judge's mind of, if I decide this way, could anything happen to me? That
It's not
alone
about
is
how
really,
she
really
decided.
bad, right?
Like,
It's not about how she decided,
let me bring up an example that maybe
Is
will
it?
clear this up. So
Is it?
No,
Can you guys
no.
answer that?
I don't
Is this
honestly
about
know.
how she decided?
This is irrelevant. It's not about how she decided. But what I'm saying is, if you're saying it puts all the judges on notice, which is what
Do we
the
know
point
how
you're
she
actually
was
making,
ruled in the case? I'm actually not sure.
no, this
How-
is not.
It's-
it was
it's-
a pre-trial hearing, and she adjourned.
Okay,
it.
so it wasn't
It
even. There was no
it wasn't
even.
even a trial.
It's
for the
delayed
past-
till
okay.
May something 16th or
And that's the other thing too. I mean, again, this doesn't prove intent either way, but she did reschedule this case for him to show up again. And now, whether or not like that was a hey, now go get away and you'll never come back, like she put on a docket a calendar appointment for when he was going to show up to court again. So that might be evidence in the other direction. But regardless, if you were to look at the abortion policies that have been happening across the country, and I don't want to get into an abortion argument, but just would you acknowledge that there are a lot of doctors? I think there are testimonies from many doctors who are worried about performing certain medical procedures, abortions or otherwise, on women because they're worried about being charged with these abortion crimes. Even though they're not doing anything illegal, they are now hesitant to do certain things that would not be illegal if they think it could be perceived that way, and they would get charged and go to jail for it. And that's kind of what we're saying is going to happen to these judges.
Every instance of doctors that I've seen doing that also happen to be abortion activists. So I don't necessarily take their word at face value. But I actually want to go back to this. Actually, I don't know where I was going with that.
Yeah, can we
Never
talk
mind.
about the chilling effect on the judges? Like, do you not think that Paula Zinez is going to at all be worried about the fact that, I mean, first of all, they're already saying we should impeach these people because they're activist judges. And so far, Paula Zinez has not done anything illegal. The Supreme Court said at worst she overreached by saying that when she said facilitate and execute the return of Kilmar Abrego, and they said, okay, but you just can't force the government to do something, so you can just say facilitate. And that was completely through the legal process. Hey, we don't like the way you said this. It was appealed. Now your ruling stands here, and we
Hold
removed the
on,
word
Soy,
effectuate,
just
right?
real quick.
Yeah.
Soy, did Trump say that, or was
No, the
it?
Supreme Court said that.
No. When talking about impeaching this judge, did
I
Trump
know
threaten
Trump
it,
has
or
been-
was it some
not-
guy on
maybe
Twitter?
not this one specifically. I'm talking about the context of everything that's happened in the last 3 to 4 months. where
Okay,
he
but
and
because I
Elon
do
Musk
think
and
it's
all these people are
important to make the
tweeting out,
distinction.
impeach activist judges.
I do
That
think
is
it's
the-
important to make a distinction from rando on Twitter says a thing versus
No, this is the
administration
Trump,
is saying a
Elon,
thing.
all these people. Yes.
I think though ultimately going back to like because you've mentioned multiple times that ICE being present disrupted this judge's hearing.
Yes.
ICE's presence didn't disrupt the hearing more than the judge blowing up at ICE disrupted the hearing and then adjourning it early. And arguably, like, whether you say it's the judge that violated the due process of the victims who were attacked by this immigrant or not, at the end of the day, right, ICE has done this multiple times before and it hasn't blown up into this event. So really, like,
Wait, no, there is a precedent of ICE showing up to courtrooms like this and people complaining about because of exactly what we're complaining about, which is witnesses stop showing up, illegal
people
immigrants
complain
stop showing
about
up
it.
to their court. Right, because it's doing what they're saying it's doing, which is causing illegal immigrants not to show up for court dates for this, right? This wasn't his court date to get deported. This was his court date to say, hey, what are
Well,
we gonna
he had
do on
already
this
had
battery
that.
charge? Right, okay.
Right,
I'm not
he
saying
already
that.
had the
I'm saying,
order.
look, what you're doing by
It's
showing
relevant.
up in these
It's relevant.
courts and scaring these people is, again, this is what I'm saying. If you want these people to be deported, this is going against what you want because now these people are not going to show up to the court process. If you commit a crime as an illegal immigrant, they're not going to show up and get charged with this. They're just going to go away. Witnesses are not going to show up if they're worried about ICE, if they're worried about their family because of ICE. This is disrupting the judicial process in a way that actually hurts people that want to deport all of the illegal immigrants. So that
And
was
to be
all.
and to be
we're saying.
clear,
So
To
then
be clear,
what
Deej,
what
you
is ICE
don't
supposed
know-
to do in a
Not-
sanctuary jurisdiction?
not arrest people at a courthouse is what I would say. But also it's impossible to know, even though they've done this before, it's impossible to know what the actual consequences of that have been, you know? And we don't know what they're going to be in the future too, because we don't know who could have been a witness, who could have been the victim that showed up to these cases and didn't because of what ICE has already done. And we don't know what the consequences of this will be now that they've making a big public statement about it, and they know illegal immigrants know now, where they probably either didn't know or didn't know as well before, after this big case, that yes, ICE can go into a courthouse and can arrest you at that courthouse. You're just going to get way less people coming to testify and even go to their court hearings in the first place. So if you want less illegal immigrants in the country, that seems pretty counterintuitive.
You're talking about people who are here illegally, we're going to see less of them showing up. Is that what you're saying?
To court,
correct.
To get charged with crimes
if they're illegal, if they're in the country illegally, they're going to get picked up by ICE anyway, and they shouldn't be here anyway. So I don't want to like tailor the process to keep.
So they can do it not at courthouses. Then is what you're saying. That would just be better then.
That's bad, right? You don't like it happening at courthouses.
Yes,
I mean, not at courthouses. They could get a judicial warrant and go arrest someone at their home who is like an MS-13 gang member. They could show up at their place of work if they're working illegally. Like these are places, like there's precedent for how you do this in a way that does not intimidate people in such a way that the illegal immigrants that I think most people would have a problem with, the ones that are here illegally and committing crimes against other illegals or citizens, they're not going to go through the court systems at all. They're going to completely flee every time they think, oh, I might be arrested at this courthouse. I'm not going to go to my pretrial hearing. I'm just going to fuck
Think
off.
about this guy. Think about literally this guy who had a misdemeanor charge, so it wouldn't be the end of the world even if he got accused of that. He would have never ever gone to this pretrial hearing if he thought there was a good chance that ICE agents would be waiting for him to deport him. He would just flee somewhere else and never actually face justice.
Why would you not already think that? He already got deported once and was here illegally. Why would he not?
Because it's not a widespread thing that people always think ICE agents are going to be at their door. But with this show of force and then publicizing it like incessantly and making a big show out of it, now people do think that they're going to be ICE agents at their workplaces once they hear about this case and other cases like it.
So, I mean, this sounds then like a larger issue of just because, I mean, it sounds like then we should just be deporting everybody the second that they get into custody, because if they're afraid that they might get deported, they're never going to go to their court cases anyways, right? Because there's a lot of what ifs, right? What if, like, what is ICE supposed to do if it's a jurisdiction that doesn't cooperate with them? There are people that are known to have been deported that are back in the country.
Get judicial warrants and go to their private property.
They don't
want to.
The reason they're
but they can't. They can't
like
get
I said, is understandable.
No, hold on. Let Deej finish. Let Deej finish. I want to hear his response to this just real quick, please. Go ahead, Deej.
Because in some of these jurisdictions, it's difficult to get the like address of where these people live if it's a sanctuary jurisdiction where they don't cooperate with ICE.
Yep, sucks to suck then. Like figure it out like that, like or change the federal law so that sanctuary cities can't be a thing. But like other than that,
well, but if they did that, then you would call Trump a dictator and a tyrant because he's forcing states to bow to his heel.
Disagree with it. I would personally disagree with it, but then you're just like way like.
So you create a situation where no matter how you enforce immigration law, you're a tyrant.
I would personally be against it. I would personally be against it. Yes, correct. I don't want mass deportations. You're right. But what I'm saying is they're doing it in a gray area way right now when there's much easier ways. If they wanted to go around sanctuary cities, they could pass a bill in Congress. They don't have the votes to do it, or they could figure that shit out themselves and arrest them in a private place that doesn't disrupt all judicial proceedings in that city.
I do want to engage with Deej's point he is making here, and I want to hear this and this is a question to both Soy and to you, Jonah, as well, right? Because this is, I think he has a point here in that you are creating a situation where there are a group of people out there who, no matter how Trump handles immigration, as long as he's deporting people, whether that be legally, whether that be through due process or whatever, there's going to be a bunch of people calling him a tyrant for doing so. What do we think that? How do we address that? Because unless you're against immigration or against deportations entirely,
that's a stupid point. Yeah, so some people are against deportations entirely, and they're never going to be happy no matter how this is done. We're just saying don't do it at a courthouse because this is both against the people who don't want people to be deported and the people who do want people to be deported, as specifically criminals. So this is the idea that this is a dichotomy between, like if they can't do it at a courthouse, what are they supposed to do? There are, like, we keep naming ways that they could do this that is not at a courthouse that maybe Jonah might have a personal issue with, maybe depending on who's getting deported, I might have a personal issue with, but it's completely irrelevant to the fact that it is not disrupting the judicial system and fucking with people that are otherwise supposed to be showing up to these hearings. You can go to the house.
They're already supposed to be showing up, though.
Yeah, they're supposed to be, and they're not going to if you keep showing up to courthouses, and that's why we're saying that's dumb. It's a bad
Then they'll get
precedent for both
arrested.
people.
Like they're gonna.
No,
You're telling me they're gonna
won't.
continue
Go ahead,
breaking
John.
more laws? Okay.
Yes, they will. Do you want that? I don't.
They'll be, if they don't show up to their court dates, they'll be picked up by the police, correct?
Would you prefer if someone went to their court date, got processed, and then maybe ICE picked them up at their house later that day, or that they commit a second crime and then get deported?
And never show up at court at all, and then they have to track them down across.
This is like
they're running away from their community.
This is a bit like you can't police criminals because you're just gonna make them mad and make more criminals.
No, this is not at all what that's about. It's about there are millions of illegal immigrants in the country, and some of them commit crimes that we want them to show up to their court dates for. And if they always think that they have a chance of getting deported every time they go to even a pre-trial hearing, none of them are going to go to those things, and you're never going to get any justice for anyone.
This is the reason we have bail. If they're a flight risk, then post a high bail amount. Like people are flight risks.
Do immigration hearings have bail? I'm not sure they do.
This wasn't an immigration.
Is that a true statement or not?
Deej, are you going to assume that every single
Hold on,
person...
answer Drone's question real quick. Drone asked a question. I want to hear the answer from you guys to this. Drone asked a question. Can you ask your question again, please, so they can...
Years worth of no one is above the law, but even when we heard that, we knew how stupid it was because we know Democrats fully support sanctuary cities and they support illegal immigrants. So you don't think no one is above the law. You think you're above the law.
Well,
that's not what sanctuary cities are, by the way.
Okay. What are
also,
they? They're sanctuary from immigration law.
Are people getting deported in sanctuary cities? Do you know what sanctuary cities are? Tell me what the difference between that and a normal city is.
Sanctuary city will help keep illegals, hide them from ICE and keep them from being deported. That's what sanctuary means, correct?
False. All it means
they just
is
don't cooperate with federal.
Yeah, the local.
Right, they don't. That's what I meant. They don't cooperate.
They don't actively hide them. They just say, "Oh, you want this information? Sorry, we don't have to provide that to you, and you have to find it yourself." And that's perfectly acceptable. That's perfectly acceptable, by the way.
No, it's not. It's.
Well, that's an ideological disagreement.
This is like no snitching. It's like no
snitching.
Okay, well,
if you wanted to change,
we have laws. They're government, and they're finding ways around the law, carving out exceptions.
Hold on, let Drone finish, please. Let Drone finish, please. Go ahead.
What this is Democrats now carving out exceptions from their own standards, like we're used to them doing. That's what sanctuary cities are. It's just a way around the law.
Sanctuary city, but you're still not living in reality of the actual rational decision making that illegal immigrants go through when they decide whether or not to attend pre-trial misdemeanor hearings. By the way, which if in one case it's like, oh, I might have like a misdemeanor on my record and it's like not the end of the world, so I could attend the hearing, but then you get the thought in your mind that, oh, there's a chance I could be deported from the country and my life completely ruined. There's every incentive for that person to never go to those trials again. And all you're going to be doing is having a lot of victims and no way to track down the perpetrators of those things, because it's really hard to chase people across state lines. There's millions of these people. There's probably tens of thousands that are committing crimes.
Just real quick, because it's not just about like we're worried that the people who commit a crime won't go to their court date. It's we're worried that if a man beats up an illegal immigrant and that illegal immigrant wants to press charges because they got beat up, that the victim won't show up to testify because there are ICE agents who will deport them because they were a victim of a crime, which is, I think, the biggest.
But they're in a situation they created themselves. I'm not saying they should be beat up. Don't get me wrong. I don't want that to happen, and it is a crime.
Sure. I'm not saying you're saying that.
The situation they created. When you go into a country and you live there illegally, you're creating that situation.
Yeah, and would you rather that people like are able to help us catch criminals, like if they are, violent people beating up people in the street, or do you want them to get away with it because, well, that guy, he's here illegally, so whatever. Ideologically, I don't think we should go through any of these processes or let any of these people get prosecuted if they're committing crimes, because that guy's not supposed to be here. Like, does the committing of a crime beforehand somehow like deny you all of the ability to participate in our legal system? Like this, I think this is a really ridiculous.
Well, the whole reason we're in this situation to begin with is that our border's been open for way too long through Democrat and Republican administrations.
Yeah, like, I mean, at the end of the day, right? What is creating this situation where you're afraid that witnesses won't come up and testify for having been assaulted? the fact that they're in this country illegally. You know how you solve for that? Is by having a process to either get them out of the country or give them a legal status so that that's not an issue. And as far as the point about like criminals not coming to their trials, guess what? Criminals already don't want to come to their trials, right? That's the reason that we have bail.
You want no one to come to their trial. You're saying, well, something bad happens, therefore nothing should ever good happen ever. We're saying, yes, there are clearly illegal immigrants that are showing up to these places because they're saying, hey, this is not as bad as getting deported. And what you're doing by setting this precedent is saying, hey, let's just have all these people hide as much as they can and never, ever, ever participate in the legal system because now they're scared of being deported. I'm not saying you can't deport people. I'm not saying there's no process.
They're already not participating in the legal system.
He's literally in the courthouse, Deej. He was there, and now he would never have gone had he known those ICE agents were going to be there.
This is an example of him
he had already been deported, right? He went through the legal system. He was found to be deportable. He was deported without a clause to be able to return to the country, and he came back. The only reason he showed up... The only reason that he showed up, right, was because he came back into the country, violating our legal process, and then committed an assault on multiple people.
Even after
and was arrested
all of that,
for
even
it.
after getting deported once, he still trusted the legal system enough to go there and not fear that he's going to get deported another time. If you start eroding that more, the people who are much more risk averse than this guy, who's already been through the process once and clearly is like, you know, willing to like run away from like police or whatever, like random like women and children who are like the victims of these crimes are never ever going to risk going to a courthouse.
People who were trafficked into the country.
What's an easy solution to that, right? The judge can, when he's arrested, look and say, oh, he's already been deported once. He's a flight risk. We're going to post a bail that he probably won't be able to pay, or at least is enough money that it's going to keep him here. And we're going to use that as the incentive to bring him to the courthouse. Or they can turn him over to ICE and just deport him.
He showed up. He agreed to show up. He was going
after
to the courthouse.
Arrest, yes.
Yes. What he would not have done this otherwise. That's the whole point. Is that you're saying,
that's what we have bail
here's
for.
This solution to get him to come participate. He was already participating in this system. He was going to this court case. Now, if you want to say, go ahead.
Assume that the people that he had the misdemeanor that like charged him with the misdemeanors, like roommates or whatever, that he like got in a fight with. Assume they were illegal immigrants. Do you think they ever press those charges?
Probably not.
Probably not.
Yeah, I was
right?
wondering
because,
if they're illegals. I don't know. I couldn't find.
I don't know, but I'm just saying, like, they're like it's really easy to think of a world where that's the case, right? Where like
you know what though,
like roommates, and they would never report these things.
I think as a general rule, right, enforcing like the status of illegal immigrants is more important than illegal immigrants being victimized and choosing not to go to a courthouse because they're afraid they're going to face the consequences of their actions.
So your solution is magically deport millions of people and just have none of them engage in the legal system until that happens. That's your solution.
If they are an illegal immigrant, then yes, I think they should either get their like legal status situated or they should be deported.
I understand your ideological position that they're illegal, they shouldn't be here, but we're talking in a practical sense of there are millions of people here that we can't magically wish away right now. Like Trump promised as much as he wants mass deportations. This is an incredibly expensive logistical nightmare that's never going to happen, in my opinion. And so if you want these people to, while they're still here, whether or not you think they should all be deported, at least go through legal processes and participate in our legal system and make sure there's not more crime happening. I would prefer that. And that's what I'm saying. That's why I'm saying this is on both sides. Right? This is, if you don't want them to be deported, ICE should not be doing this because you don't want them to be deported. But if you do want them to be deported, you should want them to participate in our legal system insofar as they will prosecute, people might show up who otherwise wouldn't show up, who would maybe prosecute illegal immigrants who are committing crimes. That's the whole reason why this is a bad precedent to set.
How do you get to the point that we now have to set this precedent that the only way to solve illegal immigration is to deport 11 million people?
You're just looping. You're just looping. Like we can agree or disagree if like the extent of the problem, what the problem is you're still not living in reality. If there's an example, like I'm sure this has probably happened before, or it will in the future. If like some illegal immigrant murders a family member of another illegal immigrant family, and they want to go get justice for that murder, but they have a ton of other family members who are also illegal immigrants, and going up to be a witness in that crime could potentially get their entire family deported. You're not going to get those people going to be witnesses unless they're incredibly brave to catch that murderer. And so you're literally going to get more unsolved crimes from the exact people you want to deport the most, which are the illegal immigrants who are actively committing crimes right now. That's probably top of your list, or at least it ought to be. And you're going to get less of those
They
people
can't
actually being caught and
commit.
deported.
They can't commit crimes if they're not in the country, right?
Okay, wave your
And-
magic wand and deport all of them. Then, like, we're not living in the same reality. You can't
Well,
just, you can't just say, well, I
is
want
my
the world
point,
to be
right?
this way.
This is my
therefore
point. This is my point.
must be,
The
like,
reason we're at this situation where we have this massive bucket full of stuff that we want to get rid of is because nobody has been taking anything out, right? Until
Yeah.
you go through
How
the
do you suppose
hard
this
and
happened?
painful process of getting rid of the backlog number of illegal immigrants, you're going to just end up having the number increasing, right?
You can
Because
do
if we
that
just
while
if
not
we
doing it
just
at
if we just
courthouses.
do what you guys are saying, right? Then in 2030, that number isn't going to be 11 million illegal immigrants, it's going to be 20 million. And then in
How much would you
2040,
think-
it's
how
not
many-
going to
how
be
many
20
illegal
million,
immigrants-
it's going to be
wait,
50
okay,
million,
this is
right?
silly. This
Because
is silly.
more
What
and more
percent of
people are going to be
deportations
trying to flee
happened-
into the country.
What percent of catches and deportations do you think happened at courthouses versus everywhere else? Tell me. Give me a prediction.
I don't know what the specific numbers are.
Okay, unless you're thinking it's over 50%, then your argument you're saying makes literally zero fucking sense. You understand that, right? Even if it's over 50%, it still makes zero fucking sense.
This person was already arrested.
How does that relate at all to what I just said?
Because the reason he showed up at court was because he was arrested, not because he just like they gave him a
Hold on,
ticket
was
and he
he-
came
He
and
was
showed up.
arrested.
Hold
He
on,
was
because I don't
arrested.
know, and I want to know. Did he come to the courthouse from jail, or did he come to the courthouse from his private residence?
I actually don't know.
Because that makes a difference, I think.
From his private residence. This is a pretrial
Was
misdemeanor hearing. He's not a murderer.
was there bail?
Again,
I don't think so.
that would be
I
useful
don't
to
think
know,
he was
wouldn't there?
in
Right?
jail.
Like, was
This
there
is not the
bail?
actual-
You keep downplaying.
This-
You do keep downplaying with. You said he's not a murderer. It was just a misdemeanor. Was it a
Yes.
misdemeanor? I can't find anything about actual
Yes.
charges.
Misdemeanor
Misdemeanor.
battery assault, which is we're not saying this is good. We're saying the reason, like, this is the reason he showed up is because he's not like, I'm gonna get locked up for 25 years. It's that, like, he's like, hey, like, I did a thing, this might be bad, I'm gonna show up and go through the legal process. And what we're saying is, again, and you will not contend with this, hey, yes, if I were to believe in your ideology, I would wish that every single illegal immigrant could be magically wished away. The problem is it's very difficult to do that, and you're not contending with the fact that it's going to be more difficult to deport more people if you show up at courthouses, because once you start doing that, and it might already be the line might have already been crossed, no one is going to show up there, so you can't do it anymore. That's why you shouldn't do it.
So okay, so here's actually what should have happened, right? This shouldn't have been a sanctuary jurisdiction. Once
Can you
the
address what I just said?
So the problem is that I don't care necessarily that people that have an illegal status are afraid to show up at court, because if the system was working properly, they wouldn't need to either be afraid of showing up at court, or they wouldn't be here to have committed the
Right,
crime
and that
or be
is our issue with
victimized
this,
in the
because
first
I
place.
understand your logic there, Deez. It's like the whole reason this is a problem is because they're here illegally. Okay, sure, that's true. They are here illegally. They are the people that decided to come here and make that our problem. But they're here now. And if we live in reality, what we want less criminals, okay? We want less people committing crimes, we want more people prosecuted, and we want people to go through the legal system. So now that they are here, it is not relevant why they are here. We're not using their illegal status as the justification for how we now treat completely what their every action they take in the judicial system. It is, hey, they're here now, we can't just magically deport them, therefore we would prefer, if you want more people to be deported, for them to at least go through legal systems and charge people who are being criminals, and we want people to show up and not be afraid to show up and let this process happen, but also that we should go and arrest these people outside so that we can do more of them, because you can't do as many of these deportations if you're arresting them in courthouses if they don't show up anymore, which is what's going to happen. So regardless of what side you're on, it doesn't make sense to do this.
Well, then how about instead the sanctuary jurisdictions cooperate with the feds so that
another
when they
argument.
arrest somebody who's in this status, they can properly be put into the system. And ICE doesn't feel like the best place to go and arrest these people is at these court hearings.
That's a fair argument. If you want to say that Trump should crack down on sanctuary cities in some way, I might have a problem with that, but that is a thing that might actually have more material results that you would agree with, which is more.
I think
people
that's
being
about to
deported.
happen, by the way. Tom Hammond just hinted at it.
Do we
Sure,
worry?
but
Let's
we're
talk about that.
living
Let's
in
talk about for a minute, because I think it might get us off this loop that we're in. Let's talk about sanctuary cities for a minute. I think this comes down to an issue between state versus federal government here. Let me ask you a question to you, Dronetek. You're against sanctuary cities, right? You don't like them. Is that a correct assessment?
Yeah, of course.
Okay. Do you feel the same way about, say, Texas wanted to have a city where they were like, you know what? All these gun laws that those liberals and the federal government are passing, you know what we're going to do? We're just not going to cooperate when the cops come to want to arrest people for violating these gun laws because we don't think it's right. Do you think that the local government should be forced to cooperate with the federal government to hunt down people who have guns unregistered or whatever?
That's a great comparison, Wick. Where'd you get that? Get that example.
That's a good question.
Really quick, by the way, I just want to say the defendant in this case did have bail that he had to post.
No, didn't.
$1,200 or something.
Okay, so wait, so your proposed solution, which was to
No,
have
I
bail for
want
this
to
situation-
hear the answer to my question.
It still didn't work, to be clear.
Yeah.
I would say it's a little different because we have the Second Amendment, we have constitutional right. And if the law violated constitutional rights, then there might be there might be a reason to ignore it. But I would say it's a little bit different just because there is a constitutional right. There's no constitutional right to be able to live in the country illegally or to violate federal law on that.
Well, I mean, there are
violating
If I
your
can
Fifth and
answer-
Eighth Amendments.
the constitutional rights, the Fifth and the Eighth
wait.
Amendment, for example, protect
Yeah.
Illegal immigrants too. Like Eighth Amendment being cruel and unusual punishment, and Fifth Amendment being entitlement to due process and things like that. And so, if the sanctuary city that's protecting illegal immigrants are worried that by sending people to CCOT that violates people's Eighth Amendment, wouldn't they also be justified in maybe not cooperating with ICE agents coming to ship people away to the foreign torture gulag?
Well, if you might have a point there if it's about sending people off, because I disagreed with that, sending off to El Salvador prison with no. So I would agree with you in that case. Yeah.
Fair enough.
So
Go ahead.
if I can answer, I think sanctuary states, cities are totally fine, but I think that there are certain federal entitlements that they should lose if they
Such as?
refuse to cooperate with the Fed. I'd have to think about what entitlements.
Okay, you don't have to get like.
but
I know this is just a hypothetical. I'm not.
How about-
I'm not
yeah,
asking for a super
just
specific
generally,
thing.
like if a state refuses to cooperate with the federal government, that the federal government can also choose to not cooperate with the state.
Would
It's
you
just
extend
kind of the
that?
principle.
Would you extend that to it, like the gun law example that Wick
Yeah,
just gave
totally.
as well?
If the state of Utah were to like refuse to abide by the NFA, which I'd be totally, or not NFA, but like just refuse to cooperate
I
with.
understand what you mean. Yes.
I'd be more than happy for that, even if it came at the cost of like we get less funding for our national parks or anything like that.
How far
or
would you
other-
be willing to take that? How like all federal funding, would that be acceptable to you? Where's the line for that?
What if
Sure,
what
all
if
federal
Utah
funding.
had an earthquake? Not that it's on a fault line, right? Like
Yeah,
what
like
fucking
FEMA
new?
funding.
Okay, so say a state with natural disasters did this, and they had a natural disaster. Do you think
Sure.
that a sanctuary city, for example, either from gun laws or from illegal immigrants, that the administration of the federal government should withhold disaster relief funds because they refuse to let either gun laws or ICE laws be enforced?
Sure, let them
Really? Okay.
like make it make
That's
it legal,
insane.
but
Let's collectively
like,
punish
have
the
it-
whole state suffering from a
That's
natural disaster
insane.
because
Yeah,
of the
like
actions
have
of
it
the
be
government.
legal. I mean,
dude, what the fuck?
most likely, right? Most likely, the right thing to do would be like, look, it's a natural disaster. We'll overlook it, but technically, we don't have to. Right? Look at how generous we are to you. Maybe you should think about cooperating with us more.
This is very Trumpish.
And I just want to say real quick earlier, like when I was saying it's their choice, you're like, this guy's an idiot. Look, I get what you guys are saying. There's this reality, and then there's me saying, oh, but they, ignore that, and they're just illegal and just get them out. My point, I'm just saying that we got to this point. The people that are most outraged here are the people who got us to this point in the first place. And so it's a shitty situation, but we have to fix it somehow. And
right. And
this
what
might
we're
not
saying
necessarily
is-
be it, but I'm just saying, like, you got,
But-
like, I'm not
sure,
saying
and
you
they-
guys, but you guys got us here.
Sure, but
You're making your job
would
harder.
you-
No, it
would
was
you
Soy
concede-
specifically. I saw him let them all in, but go ahead, Soy.
I told you
He
that in
was
confidence.
graphical,
I also did.
Jeez.
Dronetek, what we're saying, and I'm again, this isn't. I'm not trying to gotcha on this. What we're saying is, and tell me if you disagree. Does showing up to courthouses make the job of ICE harder in the long run?
I can see. Yeah, I see what you're saying, and that might be possibly what happens. We don't exactly know yet, do we? But
Well,
you
so we
might be
do know
right.
for
You
sure
might
that
be right.
in the past, them doing this has set some precedent of, okay, hey, fewer people are showing up to hearings, right? Depending on where this is done. Now, whether or not it would happen in this specific case, we don't know. Maybe there's like a broader study on this. But again, I came into this with 3 points, and I think Jonah agrees with most of these. One is that is ambiguous as to whether or not they should be arresting this judge in the way that they did, not whether or not she committed a crime. Well, whether or not
let's
she
take
committed a
these
crime,
one at a
also
time. So
ambiguous.
finish your
But-
first point, and then I want to see
Okay.
if they agree with that.
I want to ask
Okay,
something too.
so let's start with the first one. The first one
Yeah.
being, which I think you might agree, that showing up to the courthouses like this will probably, or at least in the past, and you can understand logically how this would happen, make ICE's job harder, which is bad for both the people that want ICE to deport people, but also it's bad for the people that don't want these people to be deported. So it seems like they shouldn't do this.
Who's answering? Well, I'm. But do you think as a bigger effect, ICE being at the courthouse, which is bigger, ICE being at the courthouse or Donald Trump being reelected? Because that and he
Bigger
ran big
for-
on mass deportations.
Would you say that I would say that Donald Trump, border policy and a general platform probably disincentivizes more illegal immigration.
Well, no,
but
I'm saying
I don't know what we're
I'm saying
comparing
people going to
exactly
court. I mean, would that not be a bigger disincentive than this one thing that
additive.
happened at this one court?
Well, I think
one can be bigger and one can still also
Yeah.
like extra disincentivize them.
I will
It
say
is
to
not-
Dronetek's point though, but I'm not sure if it supports his point or not. But I know people on student visas who are scared to go to court now, who are here legally, but they're scared that they're going to get their visas revoked for whatever.
because of the Khalil situation.
Well, because of just
Mahmoud Khalil.
Trump and the admin's general ideology towards and their stance towards immigration in general. I do
so
live near
I think this is
a-
irrelevant, but Wick, to the point that he's asking, yes, I think Trump in general is going to have a greater chilling effect on people showing up to courthouses, but this has nothing to do with, like, I'm not saying, oh, if I had to pick one, it's just, hey, yes, he has this effect. Also, this is going to also have an effect that is bad, I think. I think we should want people to go to the courthouses, and I think this at the very least, could be accomplished if you agree with these deportations without showing up to the courthouses, and we can avoid that one. I can't tell Trump to change his mind about his entire immigration platform, but yeah, it's going to probably be a bigger effect than specifically this thing.
Okay. Do you have a second point you wanted to get to?
The
Yeah,
other
let's
2
do that.
points that we came in for, one was that it was a gray area on the Dugan case, whether or not she should have been, whether or not she committed the crime, whether or not, I think whether or not she should have been arrested this way is less gray. I don't think she should have been arrested this way, but you can see that it is at least plausible that this is not like clear intent. It's like, yeah, I can see exactly how this could have been an intent to harbor someone. However, we do not have the facts that show 100% this is true, right? Like that's why it's going to play out in court.
That's never the standard for why you charge someone with any crime, right? You're innocent until proven guilty. So it's
Right. But I'm
ultimately up
specifically
to
saying
the
in the
prosecution to
criminal
prove
warrant
that.
arresting her immediately after this. Not, hey, do we know 100% if this person committed a crime? That's why due process exists. Obviously, I'm not saying like, yeah, you could walk in, if someone's holding a bloody knife over a dead corpse, right? Looks like they committed a murder. They still have to go through the system. I'm saying specifically, given the facts of this case, going after this person with a criminal warrant, which, as you don't have to believe me, but my understanding is that these are used for ongoing crimes or crimes that are going to be committed in the future or harm to the public in the future, which is not the case. Would you at least admit that it doesn't seem like she was going to continue this?
That might be how it's like used traditionally. But I mean, if they really did violate her rights by going after her with a criminal
I didn't say they
warrant,
violated
like you're
rights,
saying,
by the
well,
way. I think this all might be legal.
right, but that's kind of like the thing of that's sort of the theme of basically 2020 to current year is, well, it's technically legal.
Okay.
What we're doing is technically legal. Yeah, does it like break norms? Yes, but what we're doing is still technically legal. You know, they were doing it with Trump. They were doing it with like.
Yeah, I have a question for Soy Pill and for Jonah. So, do you think that the Wisconsin Supreme Court should have suspended Dugan? Because they did. They suspended Dugan from practicing and things like that. Do you think that
I
they
would
were
need to-
overstepping? Do you think that they were overreaching?
I would need to know whether it's just standard practice for anyone undergoing a criminal trial to get suspended, like their license, or if they agree with the administration. I actually don't know which it is,
Yeah,
because
there could be a
I
million
could see it
reasons.
being the case. Yeah,
Like
that
it
they
could just
suspended
be,
her because of that.
hey, you're being blown up by the Trump admin. All eyes are on you right now, and we don't want you to cause any more problems. Like, even if we agree with what you're saying, get the hell out of here. There's a million reasons why they could have done that, and I'm sure most of them, I would say, are probably justifiable, regardless of whether or not they think that she did the
Okay.
crime.
They're looking out for their own like the stability of the courts.
Why they
and,
put
trust
cops
in
on
their court system.
administrative leave, even if they don't think they did anything wrong.
Okay, now to Deej, and this is to Drone as well. You guys keep saying that, and you guys keep bringing up, and I understand it's a comparison, right? That you guys bringing up like that this is a world we live in now, where the Democrats have done this to a lesser extent, maybe. Can you give us the best example you guys got of a comparable instance where you think that the Democrats overreached and used legal peril towards a political opponent that was sympathetic towards Trump or ally of Trump or what have you? What is your strongest case that you would bring forward?
So I have two cases, and
Go
I think
ahead.
that these two cases are part of the reason Trump won in 2024 and turned him into a martyr and somehow was able to redeem himself from his actions in 2020. But and I don't remember the names involved because I'm terrible with names, but his whole real estate dealings in New York City, where they were trying to pin him on, fraud because of his tax filings, or it's been a long time since I've looked at it. That's one case. Another case is when they changed the law for 1 year for the statute of limitations to bring sexual assault claims. Seems you can't prove, right, that it was targeted at Trump, but it seems very convenient that it happened to have happened the way that it was and prosecuted the way that it was. And I think that in general, those cases shifted public opinion towards viewing Trump more as a martyr and less of a sociopath.
I understand the optics argument, but I'm asking for, do you think that it was improper for the Democrats to do it that way?
I think it was, even though I also agree it was technically legal, everything that they did.
Okay, Drone, what would
Yeah, I
your
mean-
answer be?
Yeah, the 34 felony counts. I don't know. Is that what you were talking about? That was the one that was past statute of limitations, and they magically, did something that's never been done before. And
Yep.
Okay. So that was the most absurd one of all, and it was done by Democrats who ran, Democrat DAs who ran on doing that to Trump. Like they literally got elected to do that. So I mean, it was purely political, purely partisan, clearly being done to keep him from winning the election again. And so, yeah, I think that was the most egregious right there. And the fact that it had such wide support from our supposed checks on power is a problem.
Well,
But
so
what's
again,
the
the
response to
reason
this,
these
Ken?
things aren't, I think, comparable, especially to this Dugan case, is one, this is very gray. We do not know for sure if she committed this crime. Trump, however, definitely committed those crimes. It's legally proven that he did. So that's a completely different thing. Now, again, whether or not, and
Paying
I
off
might
a
actually, well,
porn
hold on, I
star is
might
a
have some
crime?
leeway here. Let me just concede something, and then you can say this. I would say probably he wouldn't have been prosecuted with these were he not the president. Now, whether that's them going after him because he's the political opponent or because he is the most famous person in the world, and now there are a lot more eyes on his criminal activities, I think is debatable. But regardless, the fact that he did commit these crimes is now a fact, right? Like it's not just, oh, maybe he did, maybe he didn't. It's true. So again, maybe it's going to come out that she did also commit this crime. But do you disagree that he falsified business records? I mean, in a court of law, like they found that this is true, right?
No, well, in the court of law, he got convicted of 34 felonies, which is like,
Of
it
falsifying
reminded me of
business
something
records,
that Putin would do to his opponents. Like it was
Well, sure,
absurd.
it's
The number
maybe,
of felonies is irrelevant to the guilt or not, right?
Well,
like, yeah,
the
do you
number of
think he did it
felonies
or
shows
not?
the absurdity
Well-
of what was done.
Did you follow the case? Do you think he didn't falsify the business records?
Yeah, I mean, I know that I did follow it. I can't remember it exactly, but I know that it was basically he paid off a porn star, and there was an error in the paperwork for it, but I don't see how that equates to 34 felonies, especially when it was originally a misdemeanor. It was past statute of limitations.
I think if they were applying these standards across all people in his economic bracket, you would not have someone with a net worth over $1 billion that wouldn't have many felonies.
I agree. We should go after more billionaires. But
what was this? What do you think was so egregious about that?
It's not
just out of curiosity.
I might not specifically think that this is like, oh my God, how dare he falsify those business records? It's more of the fact that he did commit the crime of falsifying the business records, and he should be punished according to the law of what you're supposed to do when someone does that, right? I don't think that maybe that should bar him from being president. I don't even know if I would say a felon shouldn't be able to run for president. I think felons should be able to vote. I don't like that some of them can't. And hey, if someone had a really good platform,
not a real felony. That's the thing.
I mean, it literally is. I don't know what you want me to say.
No,
like, it'd
be a misdemeanor.
Well, hold on. Let me again, because I am conceding this, right? Like, I don't think these eyes would be on this specific case. I don't think anyone would give a shit if he wasn't president. Now, whether or not that means he should still be charged with it, hey, if you committed the crime, do the time, whatever. But the point is, we're comparing this to a person who has, as far as we know now, maybe or maybe did not commit this crime, and arresting them in a way like they didn't show up to Trump's house a few days after he committed this and they found out about this and arrest him and then say, hey, here's a photo of Trump being arrested for these felony crimes. Do not commit felonies. This was a show of force.
Did they do an FBI raid on Mar-a-Lago, or did they do one on Biden, or did they do one on Mar-a-Lago?
This is an either-or question. I know they did one on Mar-a-Lago. Did they? I think Biden found out he had documents and said, "Hey, I have these documents. I'm not supposed to have them." Trump didn't, and they had to go raid him.
Like, whatever, dude. He had him for like 30 years.
So the difference, right, is that Dugan is undergoing an active trial, right? Trump, his trial was in the past, and so it's concluded. Are you saying that, like, if we were having this same conversation back in 2020, or whenever the trial was ongoing, right, like, that it would change? Because, like, the whole point is they brought charges forward.
This is why I brought up this fact. It's like, okay, he's been convicted. So let's say that Dugan is convicted, right? We're not saying that she can't be convicted. We're not saying that, oh, this is clearly like, she's innocent and this is a ridiculous charge and you can't ever arrest a judge. Judges can't commit crimes. Because anyone who's, I don't like that people are saying, they're going after judges now, and the implication being that you can't arrest a judge. If a judge did a crime, especially in I think one of these other two was like much more obvious, like this judge was harboring an illegal immigrant, to my understanding. It's like, yeah, okay, they committed a crime, arrest them. They're not above the law, right? And Trump isn't either. The problem is the way this is carried out is a clear indication of the show of force that Trump is trying to do, not to go after people who are committing crimes, but to go after judges who are defying his will in the immigration platform. So hold on, wait, let me just finish this, right? So, like, if you want to argue against the fact that, like, hey, yeah, okay, Trump committed these felonies, but I think the way they're going after him is just a show of force. Like, this is not about whether or not he committed some sort of business fraud or lied on these business records. This is trying to like scare him out of running for the presidency. There's an argument there that I might even agree with, where it's like, yeah, like, okay, if he committed crimes, he should be punished, but I don't like that they're like sniffing out the like any specific thing just to get this guy to do something, rather than, hey, I think this crime is a crime and he should be punished. There's an argument there for sure. But again, I think that is what they're doing with Dugan. That's why they're broadcasting this. They're trying to disincentivize not just crimes, but specifically people going against them, like Paulazinas, who did not commit a crime.
Just quick, they did it during an election. I mean, that's pretty big. They were trying to influence the outcome of an election. And there was other stuff too.
They were also trying to do it way before the election. It just took way too long.
Has Trump arrested Judge Zinas?
No. We're talking about the chilling effect of, hey, judges, if you defy us, which is what Zinas is doing. Hey,
so has Trump gone after any judges specifically because they have tried to defy him?
No, he's not that stupid yet.
Well, just to be clear, he has pressed charges, or he has sued a pollster who had put out a poll he didn't like. He did that. He has pressed charges. I'm not sure what those charges. I'm not sure if it's a lawsuit or criminal charges against the law firm that represented the Dominion voting machines in their lawsuit against Fox News. He has done that. He has revoked the...
Are those criminal or civil, though?
I don't know if those are criminal or civil charges against that law firm. I don't know. He has also rescinded the there's a status that'll let you get through immigration real quick, right, to get processed for visas and things. He has rescinded the status, that status for people who have disagreed with him about the election being stolen. So he has done things against people who simply just don't agree with him. I don't think he's arrested anyone specifically for that yet.
I mean, he's gone through the
But
legal system. It's
supporters
kind of
will agree
stupid,
with that.
but
Like,
he's going through the legal system.
It's
He's
also
doing
relevant
everything
to our
within his
point that
power to
this is
retaliate.
scaring judges. Like this is, and which we don't want to happen, because their intent is, hey, not just are you committing a crime, it's, hey, if you do something I don't like, I want as much as possible you to question your decision of going against my administration, which is what we're upset about.
It is, yeah,
I think this-
think twice before you do something to piss us off.
I think this does start to bring up the broader topic, though, about, and it's actually not so much activist judges as it is activist prosecutors, but in general, how did we get to this point where a huge portion of the US population is pretty much just okay with violating the due process of illegal immigrants because there are so many of them in the country now, and they feel like we are not enforcing our immigration law.
Right?
Like,
There's no
it's-
due process.
it's-
There's no due process to get them in here, but it's like impossible to get them.
Actually, there is a due process to get them in. A bunch of the people that came in during the Biden administration were going through legally through asylum. Whether or not they showed up later to their court dates, that's different. And you can argue, hey, I don't think they should be able to apply for asylum that way. But most of these people were actually not technically coming in illegally. It was the defiance of the later court dates that is illegal. So again, you can be upset about this, and we can, I don't know why we're relitigating this. Like, hey, the only reason this is happening is, sure, but we're talking about this Dugan case and what we think should be done about this. If you, and now maybe, I don't know if you guys would agree to this, but I have talked to people that say, look, this is so bad, and they, fought against so many of due processes of coming in here for so long. We should just, if we even suspect someone, just kick them out immediately, put them in a van and like put them on a plane and get them the fuck out of there, which is what happened with the break. I don't know if you would agree with that, Drone. I think you were arguing against it, but like, yeah, that would disincentivize a lot of people. You probably get a lot of innocent people. You probably get people that don't deserve to be deported, and you'd completely disrupt the country. But that is your magic wand of like, yeah, if we just start rounding up brown people and putting them on a plane. We're talking about the reality of what's currently going on, and this is not, again, conducive to facilitating the left's goals or the right's goals if you show up at these courthouses or if you arrest these judges. It doesn't make sense.
Well, I agree that like there's an issue with strategy in general.
Okay.
But
That's kind of the
I feel like the problem is that like the people who are like concerned about the due process don't really provide a like reasonable alternative. Like the alternative
what
is
sense
basically we
specifically?
just let
Because
them
we-
stay in here and continue to accumulate the numbers because
That's
it's not
not what we
possible
said.
to adjudicate all of these asylum cases faster than they're coming in here unless people are scared of coming in, like the chilling effect that Trump does have on
They
the border.
tried to pass a bill to give more money and funding to more judges.
Giving
and
more
Trump
money and
shot it
funding
down,
doesn't
so
solve the problem, though.
It will
Like,
make
'cause-
it better to process
not the
asylum
back-
cases, though. So
The
doing nothing is-
backlog of not having enough money to hire enough judges or train and then hire enough judges. You don't think having more money to have more judges and process more cases would help process more cases? Or
The problem is that you need to be able to like, because there's two ways, right, that you can solve a demand problem, right? You can either create more supply or you can filter out that demand, right? There's plenty of people who should not probably qualify for asylum strictly because they have to go through like 8 safe countries just to get to the US. Right,
Okay.
like
So
they're
they
like
could
if they were
change
serious
that.
about solving the problem, it's not necessarily just throw more judges at the problem, because what happens then when you've hired up and you've trained all these judges and now the supply of immigrants are not enough to sustain all of these judges? Like it's almost like you create this economic incentive for people to continue coming into this country. Otherwise, you
think-
have a bunch
I
of
think
judges who
you're
just aren't doing
inventing-
it.
you're
Judges
inventing a-
are not impacted that this would increase the demand for immigrants.
Yeah, you're inventing a problem that is unlikely to exist. There's such an insane backlog that even if we hired hundreds and hundreds of new judges, like they would still take a while to get through this massive backlog. So you're just thinking like, oh, but in 50 years from now, once there's no more backlog, what will we do with the couple $1 million that we spent on these new judges? Like,
Oh, it's not a couple
cross that bridge and we
million
get
dollars
there.
on these
Okay,
judges, to be clear.
$50 million, $100 million. That's a problem for 50 years from now when this problem that you claim to care about is solved, apparently.
And what happens then when, climate change is happening, right? There's going to be far, far, far more people in central, like along the equator, that are going to continue to be moved to the poles, right?
Mm-hmm.
The demand for people that are going to be seeking asylum, and the best place to seek asylum, is only going to continue increasing as time goes on, right?
So
and
we
even
should
if
hire
we
more
were to
judges.
double, no, because here's the problem, right? You're just saying hire more judges. You don't have to just hire more judges. Not everybody needs to see a judge to say you clearly don't qualify for asylum, right? You're fleeing
All right, but in
something
this global
dangerous in your
warming
country, but
example,
why do
geez.
you have to travel across the Atlantic Ocean into Honduras and then go from Honduras through all these South American countries that you're not being persecuted in just so you can make it into
Deej,
America because
do you
America has
wanna-
more stuff to give you?
Do you want to just completely abolish the asylum process? Is that what you're getting at? Would you rather just not have it at all?
No, I just think that we should have like quicker dequalifications for people that are seeking asylum. If you're seeking asylum,
How do you
right, it's
determine
because
that?
you're
How do you
fleeing
determine if you're qualified or not?
Are you in a contiguous land border country or from specific countries we've specified
How do you
we're accepting
determine that?
asylees
How do you
from?
determine that? How do you determine
Contiguous land border or
No.
federal
How do you
government
determine
has a
where
list?
they're
I approach
from?
the border. I look like
How do you
this.
determine where they're
How
from?
do you know that fact?
Could it
You
be a
can't
judge?
just
Maybe?
We know where these people are from when they go through the
How?
asylum process.
How do we know?
No, false.
You can ask Mexico. You can ask the countries that are like our
They don't
contiguous
record
land border
every single
countries. And they
person
say,
who gets to the border. There's a
We have
reason
to
why
process it.
We
Like,
can-
that's the whole
everyone
point.
always like same
We
in the
have a
Monday.
way.
Like, oh, we can just do it quickly. There's a reason why in due process, like we have due process, is because we don't know the answers to these questions until we investigate the answers to these questions, and we need judges to do that. Other people aren't qualified to do that.
So here's a simple way you can do this, right? They're coming in through the Mexican border, right? The ICE agent says, "What's your name?" They then have cooperation with the Mexican government so that they can identify if this person is actually a Mexican citizen, right? Is he a Mexican citizen? Does he? Then yeah, he can go and qualify. If the person doesn't show up as a Mexican citizen, or like his appearance doesn't match the name that he's given or whatever, then tough luck.
His appearance
Ask
doesn't
for
match
asylum
the
in
name
Mexico.
he is given. Let's explore
Sorry.
that for
It's
a
like a
minute.
very idealistic situation.
So you give-
Like,
Well, no, it's not actually.
It is because there are
My
plenty
name
of
is
cases
Joe.
of people
I'm a Mexican
being,
immigrant.
prosecuted by like gangs and stuff, and whether it's El Salvador or any of these like bordering countries to Mexico that may or may not be safe in Mexico or be facing prosecution from both of these places, and just simply but whether or not they're a citizen is enough to just say, okay, no asylum for you. Like if you're not on this list, like you have to leave. Like this is very idealistic. There's like I can think of like 10 billion edge cases off the top of my head where this is completely going to fuck over a bunch of people, and like that's why Jonah asked if you want to just get rid of asylum, because that is kind of seems like what would practically you would lean to, which is, look, we can't always tell, and there's not really a real solution here, so just don't let anyone in who claims asylum. Like, I disagree with you, but at least that's a consistent, like, hey, that would cut it off completely.
Do
If you want
you
ideological
really
consistency,
think?
Hold on, I wanna-
just
Can I-
advocate
can I-
for
can
hold
I
on,
ask
hold
a
on.
quick
I want to give
question?
it to Drone. I want to give it to Drone. Drone,
Yeah,
go
like,
ahead.
do you have a limit for how? So I want to help people, but the asylum system has been broken for a long time. Barack Obama used to talk about it being broken, and that it's not meant for people to come just because they live in a bad neighborhood or something like that, or they're poor. That's not what asylum's for, but that's what it's being used for. And real quick, Donald Trump stopped it at the border with the Remain in Mexico policy on his first term. Then Biden got rid of that. They got overran, and it stopped again with Trump just basically getting back into office without judges or spending anything.
Did you support the immigration bill last year, Drone?
The one that was gonna buy more judges.
The one
bipartisan one,
the one that Trump killed. Yeah, that was initial sponsor was
Trump didn't hold any position of power. I know he gets blamed for killing it, but I don't agree with it because it wasn't. No, I didn't agree with it.
Well, yeah, but Drone, Trump is on record. The senators who voted against it were like, Trump told me.
Yeah,
not to
but Drone
vote
tells
for it. Like,
us he didn't agree with
saying.
it. Why? What was wrong with the bill that you opposed it?
If I remember correctly, it was still letting in like a ridiculous amount of people every year, right? And
Right, so
it
would
got
you
more
prefer the number to be
judges and
zero?
it got more
It
border guards.
capped it at, I
No,
believe,
let Drone
5,000
finish so
per
we
day.
can.
No,
so we
but
can hear
look,
what he has to
I'm
say.
saying that like Trump has already done, like we didn't need that bill. Did have the encounters at the border plummeted or not?
Yeah.
Is there more funding? Is there more funding to process the millions of people already here?
Here's the problem though, right? The answer is always just throw money at the problem, right? The bill basically all it didn't change any of the fundamentally flawed administrative problems with our asylum system. All it did was say, let's throw more money at it. Let's hire more judges so we can process more cases through
This
those
is one
judges.
of those times where that's what's needed, actually.
No,
it's not always,
because
it's not always
there
the
are
case, but it
tons
is
of
here.
people who don't necessarily have to see a judge to see that, all right, are you like, okay, you're from some
Who would they see
African
then?
country,
Yeah.
and
A
you're
random ICE
claiming
agent?
that you're sure, you can hire paralegals to do it.
A random ICE agent is going to determine whether someone's from Africa or is maybe just like
You can have
a
an
dark person from
administrative
Mexico.
checklist.
Like what are we doing?
You can have
These
an
are random
administrative
people
checklist.
like coming across the border. Like,
You can
Hello?
have an
But we still care
administrative.
about an asylum process.
Do you have
We
a
still
citizen
want an
named
asylum
Manuel
process.
Hernandez? Do you have one citizen named Manuel Hernandez? Because if we're going to make sure this person is who they are.
Okay. How do we verify like passports are legit when people come into the country?
You mean like
How do we
Spanish thing?
validate that a Mexican passport like person is claiming they are who they claim that they are?
When they come
Is there
into,
almost
like
like
an
a
airport?
database that you can look up that has like a
Yeah,
picture of the
sure.
person
Are
when
we-
they got
are
the
we trying to-
document
are we
or
trying-
like
Are we trying
citizenship?
people with passports should be able
Yeah,
to
are we
claim
trying to
asylum?
claim that
No.
only Mexicans who can travel on airplanes internationally will be the ones that are allowed into
No.
across the
No,
border to
but
claim
the
asylum
point
from
is-
dangerous situations?
The point is that Mexico, a contiguous land border nation, has a database that we can look up to prove the identity of people who claim that they are who they are, right?
Right. So is it
Does-
just
does
Mexico
one?
have that
Is it like
system?
in an airport where you're just going to have a guy at a kiosk and he's going to say, "Hey, all right, I'm looking at you. Okay, here's a database. I found you. I didn't find you. Whatever. Get the fuck out." Or is there maybe some sort of hearing to figure out whether or not this person is indeed who they say they are, or
What they can
whether or not
do-
their claim of asylum, of whether or not they're being persecuted, whether it's in Venezuela, like this. Garcia was persecuted in El Salvador, right? But he showed that there was still like Tren de Aragua people that were persecuting him, not just there, but in other places, right? So that's why his actual what was it? Not the stay, the remain thing that the judge gave him, so
Withholding?
that he couldn't immediately be deported to El Salvador. Sorry,
The withholding from
Withhold-
deporting.
yeah, the
to
withholding
El
from
Salvador?
removal. Because he was able to prove that, only because he was able to see a judge. Like that was the only way we were able to see that. You can't just determine this based on like whether or not you're in a database.
There are other places where people can go to be safe. So you have a clear definition of the people that can apply for asylum from a specific set of countries that have been identified that we take them from, or a nation with a contiguous land border, because that would be that person's, like, getting to the US would be the first safe haven that they can get to, right? And if there is a question on, like, they provide their name, and if they claim they're a Mexican citizen, right? And we can validate that at least they gave a right name and they roughly fit the description of this person that's in the database, then you can put them into the judicial process to validate all of that. But there are plenty of people that are clearly like, you're from Honduras. Why do you need to seek asylum here?
Is there some principled position where if someone was from Honduras, for example, and they had a legitimate claim that they would be in danger even in Mexico, that we shouldn't let that person in if they can prove that they would be in danger in all of the countries leading up to America? What's your principle? Like, what part of your principles are saying no? We still should not let that person in, even if they can prove that they are going to be in danger in all these countries.
If they can provide like enough evidence at the gate, then you can have an administrative process to
How would they
deal
provide-
with those.
Yeah, and how would
What's
they
your-
prove it?
what's your
Oh, okay,
standard
hold
for
on.
in danger? Like, just because you live in a bad neighborhood and you see that as dangerous, that's not
It turns
asylum.
out we have trained judges to determine these things. Wow, that's crazy. We should maybe spend more money to hire more of them to process more cases.
Okay, we're kind of
Should we have judges at pharmacies, at airports, at doctors' offices?
No, because those are for legal immigrants, and it's for far less important things than whether or not you get to enter the country or not. It's just fill your prescription or get on an airplane. So
you see nothing wrong with asylum. It's just fine.
asylum's
Our-
super
yeah,
important
our-
process.
our
We should hire
asylum
more
system
people
is
to make
broken.
sure people get heard. Yeah,
He's
it
asking,
is
like,
broken.
Well, our
There's no
asylum
way
system is
asylum
being
works.
abused, and you just want to incentivize more of that, right?
No, I want to hire more people so there's less abuse going on, so people can actually make use of a process that is a good thing to have as a rich country that wants to protect people from getting killed in neighboring countries. I think we should have it, and we should have it in an efficient
So
process.
why don't we just
We
bring
have enough
everybody in?
judges to evaluate everyone. Well,
Just bring them
you're
all in.
arguing-
Just bring
you're
everybody
arguing
from
it-
those,
you're
because they're all in
arguing-
danger. right?
You're
They're all in
arguing,
danger.
Dronetek, no, you are arguing against yourself. If you wanted less people here on the asylum process, you would want more judges to be able to hear the cases and then kick them out once they realize that a lot of these people aren't actually in danger like they say they are. But because you don't want more funding, you're just letting the same exact process through the entire
They
Biden
still get
administration. You
in.
complain about it, but you don't want to solve the problem. It's ridiculous.
Okay.
So
they
the
get
only
in, they go through the process. It doesn't work out in their favor. They stay anyway.
So the only person that can determine whether someone is a legitimate asylee seeker versus someone who is just migrating economically is a judge. There's no administrative process we could have that could filter out people based off of specific criteria. Is that the argument that you're saying? The only person that can determine this is a judge.
There probably are ways you can filter out, but the ways that you described are bad and don't.
Okay, let me read a couple super chats, and then we'll kind of move off the this particular point and get to the last point I want to discuss tonight. I think we're circling the drain here. Okay, so $5 from Deej Nuts. Thank you for the $5 to say Freedom Gang. Thank you.
Is that Deej?
Yeah, that is Deej. See, be a better panelist and give me money.
Panel participation in the super chats always gets me.
It's fun. I know. I like it. $5 from Testicle Johnson to say woke moralists and activist judges get to try to trans our kids, but when patriots want to deport rapist gang members, all of a sudden it's a problem.
Is that a serious one? I can't tell.
I'll let you decide if Testicle Johnson gave me a serious super chat or not. You can decide. Then $5 more from Deej Nuts to say give Wick money, based and true. Truest thing you've said all night. And then $5 from Audacity to say, hey guys, I'm the president. No, I don't have any proof. Let me do president stuff though. Thank you for the $5. Okay, obviously this has gotten to the immigrant. And $4 more from Audacity, keep getting that money in, to say, if I wanted less people abusing asylum here, I would disincentivize the hordes by demonstration of willpower to expedite their deportation. I guess the last question I have for all of you, and then we'll kind of end it there and get to closing statements and things like that. I think all of us, to various degrees, have at least admitted that they don't like everything Trump is doing with this, right? Is that a correct statement? Like, fair enough, yeah? What should Trump do if your goal is to, again, solve the immigration problem? What would you do instead to solve it? And why is your solution an actual solution as opposed to what Trump's doing? And we're going to start with Soy, and I want to hear everyone's take on this.
In my mind, am I trying to get Trump's goals done, or am I?
Yeah, you are actively, honestly wanting to deport as many illegal, especially violent illegal immigrants as you possibly can.
Well, obviously, I wouldn't show up to courthouses to arrest them because then you're definitely going to get fewer of these people. But I will refuse the hypothetical of aiding this incompetent, stupid administration. I have, aids of what I would do for immigration. I think we should provide easier paths to citizenship. I do think.
Wait, you don't think we should deport violent criminals?
I didn't say that. I said I
don't. Well, that's what I'm asking. That's my hypothetical.
Yeah, of course, we should deport violent criminals. I'm just saying I don't want to give advice to the administration that's fucking it up in real time. Like they're doing a bad job. So. I look, my position is I think there should be easier paths to citizenships because I just don't think it's practical to deport everyone, especially when their kids may or may not be legal citizens. And I think that, we shouldn't necessarily just open the border up and let everyone in. Maybe there should be more checks on the asylum process. I agree with Jonah. We need more judges to process and make sure that people are claiming asylum legitimately. I think people that come here like from India, fly to Mexico from India, and they're just like, well, I just want to illegally get over the border. Yeah, I don't think you should be able to do that. I think they should, crack down on that stuff. But right now, I just don't think that showing up to courthouses is the way we do that. It's stupid.
Okay, Jonah, are you going to engage with my hypothetical, or are you going to also refuse it?
Yeah, it's a dumb hypothetical. Like, they're probably.
Well, hold on. What is dumb about asking, hey, if you wanted to solve the immigration crisis and you wanted to deport violent criminals, how would you do it?
I would
Put
say
yourself in-
Mexico, stop.
Doesn't
You're
want
being
to.
very bad, Mexico. Mexico, stop right now.
I just
Put yourself in an authoritarian right-wing populist administration that's trying to like dominate the court system and like bend everyone to their will. I probably won't do that. Instead, I will say, yeah, we should make a legal pathway to citizenship. We should just like, I don't know why there was discussion 10 plus years ago about like DACA shit and like they never solved it. And those people should probably like immediately be citizens. And then literally, unlike what Deej said, as much money as it takes to get through the backlog of these cases, I am fine spending that money to get through that backlog, and it probably will even help their goal more than anything that they're doing will. When you like your super chat guy said, if you can say, hey, you know thousands or 100,000 or even millions of people who claimed asylum, it's very clear that you don't have a good case to asylum, and then we deport you. That'd be a much better way if you're Donald Trump and you're trying to accomplish a lot of deportations, which I probably wouldn't want to do. That's a much better way to do that, is like massively funding the system that can actually do that in a fair way and give people
Okay.
due process.
I will say I'm disappointed that both of you thought my hypothetical was dumb. I think that my hypothetical was a very pertinent question because I guess one of the problems I'm having with this conversation is I don't like what Trump is doing. I think what Trump is doing is wrong. I think he's going about this in a very, very dangerous way towards our checks and balances, towards our Constitution. But I am okay with deporting people who shouldn't be here. I think we should do that, but I think the way he's doing it is wrong. So my question is trying to elucidate that there is a better way to do it. It's not we don't do it at all or we do it Trump's way. And that's what I'm trying to get at is Trump is doing it wrong. But anyway,
Right,
go ahead,
so we're
Deej.
saying-
I
well,
want to give
wait,
Deej
wait,
a chance
you want me
to
to
answer,
actually
and I want
answer?
to give Drone a
Hey,
chance.
you
to
guys
answer.
lost your chance. You lost your chance. You wanted to own the cons so bad.
No,
You
just
lost
saying-
it. Okay.
Get rid of more illegal immigrants that are committing like heinous violent crime. Like one, no, don't go to the courthouses, which disincentivizes anyone from calling these people out. And two, yeah, maybe you have like some sort of like way to help these people in situations that feel stronger incentives to go and complain in the judicial system and get people that, because illegal immigrants usually aren't just like, hey, it's this one illegal immigrant, we dropped him into the middle of San Francisco among all these citizens. It's in communities of other illegal immigrants. If those people feel empowered, that know that they're not just going to get instantly deported the instant they complain about some sort of violent crime, these criminals are going to get exposed and we're going to be able to get them out better. But that's like the whole debate, and I think that was kind of already displayed.
Okay, $5
wanted
from
to keep
Audacity to say
following-
your hypothetical has been deported. Yeah, they deported it. They didn't let
Yeah.
it cross the border. They closed their borders to my question. But anyway, Deej, I wanted to give you the chance. Go ahead.
Yeah. So, and this isn't necessarily actually advice to Trump, because Trump doesn't listen to advice from the people he needs to. First off, right, just using executive orders isn't going to solve the problem because continuing to polarize this issue, the next time there's a Democrat in office, you're going to have hordes of migrants coming to the border and then trying to enter illegally. And everything that you have done will just be washed away with a couple executive orders on day one of the new administration. As far as what actually needs to be solved, yeah, we could solve it by just hiring 1 million judges, right? We could throw a couple $1 trillion to expedite deportations, or we could make the process more efficient. Obviously, there are disagreements about how that should look, but the reality is that there has to be a solution to be able to systemize and expedite the process to deport people that doesn't just involve seeing a judge. 18% of people that claim asylum don't even show up to their court dates, regardless. So
What about the
I
wall
think
of
that the
judges
solution
at the
is you
border?
work with Congress and you change the immigration laws so that you can filter out people before they have to see a judge. And I'm sorry if this comes off as harsh. We have no obligation to take you in except for what we have agreed to the UN, which is the first safe country principle. If you have to go through safe countries to get to us, we have no legal obligation to take you in, and anything we give you is out of the kindness of our hearts. I would love to be able to make the whole world a rich place, but by so doing, we're only going to make ourselves more vulnerable.
Why stop there? Just say fuck you to the UN too. Like, it seems like you don't actually have a committed, like, principled position to caring about people on our borders. So why do you care about what a random UN agreement says when Trump obviously
I'm
doesn't
not going to
care?
engage with that straw man. So
You
No, he's
said this.
asking you.
You said because we have a UN agreement is the reason that we're taking from our neighbors directly and not from other places. And you said, sorry, we don't have an obligation to take you in besides that agreement. So why do you even
Yes,
care
we
about
don't
that
have a
agreement?
legal obligation to, so anyone that we do take in is out of the kindness of our hearts.
So
But
why do you
do
care about
think we should
following
be
that?
kind, or do you not care?
No,
Yeah.
I think that we should be kind, but we can't solve all of the world's problems.
We should be kind, but only to people on our borders for some reason.
When
Why is
you're
that?
on an airplane and the the little things drop down, who are you supposed to put the mask on first if you have a child next to
The
you?
illegal immigrant.
Obviously.
Okay.
Again, I'm not engaging on this straw man.
Okay, I want to give it to Drone. What do you think, Drone? What should we do? Wow, we
can't hear
cannot
you.
hear a word you're saying.
Oh, sorry about that. I forgot.
It's okay.
Push talk. No matter what Trump does, I think it's the media and Democrats are going to treat it a certain way. They're going to be able to incite a lot of anger around the country, and at least half of it. And so he's pretty much just going for it. He's not worried about optics, which I think he should be. And while I understand why he's doing some of this stuff, I am also concerned about drifting into an authoritarian state. I think that our constitutional rights have been under attack for a long time. A lot of Americans don't even understand their constitutional rights. Some of them think it's a big joke or not even a real thing. And so I am hesitant to support this because it could easily happen to a U.S. citizen or any of us. It doesn't seem like it now, but it could. And so I kind of see both sides of it. I realize that, this situation didn't just start, and Trump, as far as he's concerned, was elected to deal with this. And I think that they're basically just cutting the red tape. For example, these violent criminals, he gets in office. It's like, why are these people still here? Why they should be gone. And so that's why he's done this. But obviously, if you do that, you risk catching innocent people up in it. And we can't do that, I don't think. I don't agree with that. And so what would I do? I would focus more on optics. I would stick to the Constitution and make it as hard as possible for any judge to use activism to stop you. And I think that when you do things like this, you do kind of open yourself up to opposition. And so you end up shooting yourself in the foot. And so that's what I would do. And like DJ said, Trump's not really used to listening to anybody. So we probably won't see that.
That's unfortunate. Okay, gang, this has been a riveting conversation that we've gone a little bit all over the place, but I think it was fun. It was interesting. Tomorrow at 6 p.m. Eastern, me and Enemy Charlie are going to team up to react to the Ethan versus Hassan debate that's happening tomorrow, allegedly, at 12:30 PST, EST, I'm not sure. But anyway, at 6 p.m. Eastern, you can find our reaction to it. We will watch it together. And Enemy Charlie doesn't know much about the situation, so you'll get her fresh take from it. Should be fun. We're trying to bully SFO, Dev, to do it with us too, but we'll see if we can successfully do that. With that said, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. We're going to give each of these lovely individuals, who I thank very much for joining me, an outro. I have links to all their stuff in my YouTube description. You can click on those links. You can give them a sub. You can give them a follow, whatever they want, right? And thank you. And I'll read your super chats after we do that. Let's go first to Jonah, and then we'll let Soy Pill have the last word. So we'll just go around like that. Go ahead, Jonah, and then we'll just go around.
Whether or not you think she had the intent to shield this guy from custody, which is a very gray area, there are a number of legal issues that they have to prove before even getting to that. The intent behind what the administration did and are trying to do is incredibly clear. They expedited the process. They went around and did a different process than what people normally do to investigate judges' misdeeds. They posted about it on social media. Up until they did this, they've been talking every day about activist judges and impeaching the people who go against them. And so it's no wonder that once they do this, and they have clear intent behind doing this, that other people, other judges, are going to have a chilling effect on them to not want to engage in the same way with Trump administration cases. They are at minimum going to think twice about, can something bad happen to me and my family if I rule against them in this case? That's number one. And number two is the consequence of having more and more ICE agents and high publicized, high attention cases, when now witnesses, people who are harmed. Say, for example, as I said in the debate, someone literally murdered one of your family members, but your entire family is illegal immigrants. You are not going to want to go be a witness in that case if it could risk you and all of your children, all your family getting deported in that case. I think that's a disaster scenario that unfortunately probably happens all the time, will happen much, much more when people realize that ICE agents can show up in a courthouse and like arrest them, detain them. So I think even on a legal level, it's unclear. On a moral level, it's not unclear. It's incredibly bad that they did this.
Okay, thank you for being here, Jonah. I really appreciate you. Dronetek, you're
Push to talk again.
yeah.
Dronetek, we can't hear you.
Drone, you're muted. We can't hear.
I sort of agree with the chilling effect, but this is not new. We saw the media Democrats, Chuck Schumer, threatening SCOTUS judges for ruling the way they did, and so this is an escalatory sort of pattern that we're seeing. Although there was assassination attempts on those SCOTUS judges, so that was kind of more serious. But I sort of agree. But in this case, the judge might have actually broken the law. And so it doesn't really necessarily have anything to do with a decision made. If she hadn't have broken the law, then none of this would have happened. And so anyway, thanks for having me. And if you guys want to check me out on YouTube, I'm sort of a nostalgia critic, political guy.
Check him out, gang. Thank you for being here. We've tried to get you on before a couple times, and I'm glad it worked out this time. So thank you. Next up, Deej, go ahead.
Yeah. People only complain about the chilling effect when it's happening against their side. It's politics at the end of the day, even when it's being targeted at judges. I think that there's enough of a case to at least bring charges. Whether you you can debate about the optics of how it was done. I think in general, though, there's a common theme with this conversation, which is what is the solution other than just throw more money, right? Or kind of just like, well, it sucks to suck, figure it out. I think that the Democrats will continue to lose on this issue until they can come up with a proper solution that doesn't just require throwing trillions of dollars at the border. Obviously, people voted for Trump because of immigration. It was probably the biggest issue. And it's a general caution that I have for Democrats is figure out how to solve this permanently. Otherwise, you will continue to see it probably only get worse and worse as time goes on. You can find me on the YouTube channel Deej Nuts. I am planning on doing some game dev vlogs, but I am busy with my life and it is difficult to write up scripts. So,
understood.
Yeah.
No, thank you for taking time out of your life to be with us. Appreciate you. Check him out, gang. Last but certainly not least, the propeller man himself, Soy Pill. Go ahead.
Yeah, so like I said at the beginning, we came in here with three main points. The first being that the arrest of Dugan is ambiguous at best, and the process was expedited. I don't think it is clear that she committed the crime, but it very well could be that she did. It's more about the fact that it is ambiguous, and the fact that they're making a show about this, leading to point two, is a way to intimidate judges from defying them in ways both legal and illegal. So whether or not she did this illegally, up in the air. Whether or not this is absolutely going to have a chilling effect, I think Drone and Deej conceded that, yeah, it probably will. I have a problem with that. I don't want people to not be able to push back against the executive branch just because they're in fear that even though they have a completely legitimate case, they're worried that they're going to get arrested. And finally, I think we kind of demonstrated this, that ICE people showing up to the courthouse is bad for people that don't want those people to get deported and for people that want more deportations. Insofar as, yeah, this is an issue, I don't even know necessarily to what degree immigration is a crisis and the degree that the right wing is even blowing it up. I mean, they talk about illegal immigrant crime, and it does happen. But it's like, hey, it's as if these 11 million people are all setting that woman on fire in the subway when this is clearly not the case. I would say that, yeah, I would rather, you can talk about throwing money at it and how it's not good, but hey, that is how we solve problems. And right now you can say, oh, well, the Trump admin got elected on immigration. Well, his solution was mass deportation, which is astronomically more expensive than hiring more judges and processing people. So good luck. You can find me at the Soy Pill. I'm happy to be here. And honestly, Deej and Drone, I think I respect you guys in the very least that you were able to see somewhat the degree of our arguments. You're pretty good faith about it. I thank you for that. And I think you're very close to being on our side too. In certain cases, I think you're upset with the same things that we're upset with. And once they become more obvious in the way that they're indicated to be, I think it's going to happen that way. So hopefully you'll come around. But anyway, type 1 to end the deep state, and there is a car fundraiser for Ukrainians in my stream description. So if you want to help support the war effort, please go check that out.
Okay, thanks again. Remember, tomorrow, 6 p.m. Eastern, it'll be fun. Check us out. And peace out, Girl Scouts. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.